player on top, know it. Rooftop, penthouse suite. If you really want it, gotta own it. Fly through it, we was at the lowest. Blood, sweat, tears, the components. Riding all year, now's the moment. We are not friends, we are opponents. Yeah, I'm coming for mine. Yeah, I'm making a play, the game on the line. Yeah, I've been on the grind. Yeah, I jump in the spot, I made it my time. Yeah, look in the sky. Yeah, the stars align, no shade to shine. Can't stop it already. Emotional work and devotion, we put in this time. Look, you won't stop my stride. I'll just break your line. I don't tolerate wasted time. Coming to take what's mine. Can't stop, won't stop, won't. If you really want it, gotta own it. Blood, sweat, tears, liquor, boom. You take us down, keep fighting. Off day, gotta bounce back. Might have took an L, we don't count that though. Remember back, we was down bad. Now the way we looking, gotta doubt that. I know you see the way we moving, giving game. Better listen like a student, don't talk bad it, be about it, do it. Look here, really ain't nothing to it. I got proof for you like tenfold. Always down for the team, 10 toes. You been hater, we been on. Won't quit till I'm in the end zone. Won't stop till I hit the goal line. Never been the one to need a cosign. Can't stop it already, emotional work and devotion. We put in this bedtime, look. You won't stop my stride. I'll just break your line. I don't tolerate wasted time. Coming to take what's mine. Can't stop, won't stop, won't. If you really want it, gotta own it. Blood, sweat, tears, liquor, boom. You take us down, keep fighting. At the end, I'll be there waiting for the rest. I don't take pity on the man who couldn't keep up with my best. No contest, no. You won't stop my stride. I'll just break your line. I don't tolerate wasted time. Coming to take what's mine. Can't stop, won't stop, won't. If you really want it, gotta own it. I got the fam, I got the keys, I get the work. I am the man, you know what I'm saying, so leave it to me, cause I get it first, yeah. Woo, I've been going all day, man. Same plan, can't change that. Till I'm riding around, whole squad sitting back, chilling in the Maybach. Yeah, only as deep as your roots go. I don't do corny like fructose. If you got the drama, that's word of my mama. I'll cover you up like a tombstone. I was fast in my past, now you see I'm the one. They say work, never work. If you work and it's fun, we on a winning team. On top where you find us, we can do anything. Non-stop till our time's up. We on a winning team. On top where you find us, we can do anything. Non-stop till our time's up. We can do, ayy, we coming up from the dirt, ayy. They're trying to get us to fall, ayy. I don't even gotta flex now, boy. It's only win by the fault, ayy. Taking off with the ring, ain't nothing left, man. We the kings, ran with the team, ran with the dream, ran with the one fan in the seats, ayy. I pay my dues, check the receipt. Looking at you, you already peaked. Way back then. You can't follow with my tracks, man. I was fast in my past, now you see I'm the one. They say work, never work. If you work and it's fun, we on the winning team. On top where you find us, we can do anything. Non-stop till our time's up. We on the winning team. On top where you find us, we can do anything. Non-stop till our time's up. We on the winning team. On top where you find us, we can do anything. Non-stop till our time's up. We on the winning team. On top where you find us, we can do anything. Non-stop till our time's up.
One chaotic race transfers to another, and when it comes to Dover, Delaware, the margin for error seems incredibly small, with the monster clawing at anyone that gets it wrong. One driver will find themselves taming this beast as the field turns to the third short track race of the season, where live, the KBueno Racing Network welcomes you to race number 8 in the inaugural season of the Droppin' the Hammah Cup Series. And as always, glad that you're spending a Sunday night with us as we get ready for another short track thriller. We're alongside Francisco Bacchiao in the broadcast booth. I'm Kenneth Bueno. Francisco, Talladega last week showed us a ton of things, and probably a lot of things that we expected. The chaos, the fast pace, the intensity of a super speedway race, along with a new winner in Craig Parks. We'll talk about that in just a couple of moments. But over the last several races, we've seen differences in tracks from the likes of Loudon, Road America. That all-star break kicked in, and we return to Talladega. But when it comes to these next 6, Dover may be the most pivotal, might be the most difficult track to drive out of the bunch.
Absolutely right, Kenneth. We approach the Monster Mile, and this track is not for the faint of heart. It is very difficult to get around this 1 mile concrete beast of a racetrack. It'll bite you out and absolutely leave you gut-wrenched if you get just one minor mistake wrong. The wall is very close, and you can hit either the outside one or the inside one. So it'll be very difficult for every single driver here today to get around this racetrack. And if you're able to call yourself the winner at the end of the day, just know it was not done because it was easy.
It was hard-earned if you get that victory here tonight from Dover. Again, third short track race of the season following Phoenix that kicked us off in race number 3. We joined the second racetrack of the season in the short track side with Loudon in New Hampshire, and that one was a doozy. Gave us another new winner in Ross Harlow, and so tonight could be another change in the tide here from Dover, Delaware. Before we get into the details of tonight's race specifically, let's turn back the clock, give you what happened last race at Talladega Superspeedway and the chaos that it all was. Green flag came out. Steven Stempy and Ross Harlow brought us to the green flag, And early on, Francisco, the pace turned up. Didn't take long before we would see multiple lead changes. Here's a look at the 42, James Kunkel, taking away the lead early on lap 19. But the force at the beginning, Steven Stempien, one of the best drivers to beat at the front, driver that didn't really give things away. Here was our first caution, lap 31. Richard Modric getting into Alex Muscarella and sending him hard into the outside wall. Thankfully, no one else found themselves in that incident. But near the end of stage 1, Francisco had the yellow to cut us short. Stempien was able to walk away with those points early.
Steven Stempien was basically Dale Earnhardt Jr. of super speedways last week, and moves like this right here were showing just exactly that to be the case. He was the dominant guy all night long, and this was the move to win stage number 2. Sweeping the stages was Steven Stempien from just how good of a race he had, and immediately on the restart, while making a move for the lead again, gets tapped in the left rear by the 11 of Ross Harlow, but fortunately not too big of a damage. See the front end damage there, but that is not the last we saw of Steven Stempien.
He would try to come back later in this race, but that one certainly stepped him back. Robert A. Moyer Jr. among one of the several Toyotas that would take the race lead, in control throughout the final 25. There was a resurgence from Category 5 Esports, a bit quiet midway through the race, and then came a pivotal caution inside 16 to go. That was Eric Schaefer getting turned around by Zachary Hall, but a bumping down that tri-oval exit heading to turn 1, and then it led to the restart. In overtime with 2 laps to go, Craig Parks put his DeWalt Chevrolet up front, and in a throwback night where everyone put out their best throwback schemes, Craig Parks set history for the future as the only driver to win his first career race at Talladega this season, it being in the inaugural season of Droppin' the Hammah Cup Series competition, now the 4th Drinkin' Bros Racing driver to win an event here in 2025. They've had a stranglehold on the field. Parks just the newest addition to the group of drivers, Francisco, and shocking is the understatement here with the amount of drivers that we saw dominate the early portions of the race. I mean, the Stempians, the Ross Harlows, the Stephen Harlows of the world. I don't think anyone saw Craig Parks in their forecast as to winning that race, but Parks gets it done, and Drinkin' Bros Racing continues to relish in the success that they've had this year.
Yeah, I guess it's safe to say that that was an upset victory by Craig Parks, and that interview with him after the race, you could definitely tell it was not something he was necessarily expecting when the night started, but it was definitely a win that was very dear to him, and he was very ecstatic to be able to take home the checkered flag and give himself an opportunity to make that postseason run in just a handful of races and be one of the few that have gotten a victory in this inaugural season. So for Craig Parks, that's a very good highlight moment for him on the season, and now it's just about building some sort of consistency at these non-super speedway races to try and get himself in a good enough rhythm.
But there are some surprises going into this race number 8 of the season. We'll get into those details in just a couple of moments. But talk about Craig Parks' win. Pretty popular win, by the way. A lot of drivers were so happy to see Craig achieve victory. His teammates were there first, of course, Eric Schaefer being that instrumental part of the symphony that got Parks to the checkered flag first. And those final 2 laps at overtime and sort of fending off anyone that could give him a charge. But the rest of the field, very happy to see Craig get a victory. And Craig himself didn't really have proper words to describe it. He was so happy at the end of that race. So Craig now, as we see it, locked into the Droppin' the Hammah Cup Series playoffs. That does mean a lot when you get down to these final 6 races of the regular season. Francisco, talk about Dover Motor Speedway, what we should expect from this miler in Dover, Delaware. Probably one of the hardest tracks to drive, and one that will show the drivers no mercy.
No mercy is what to expect when you come to this racetrack. It is very difficult to get around here. You got 24 degrees of banking in the straight on the turns, and then 9 on the straightaway, so you never really end up level. The only time you're ever level is on pit road. It feels like a roller coaster, if you will. That's what the drivers describe going through these corners, and this is the lap that you were able to provide to us. So kind of take us through this one.
Well, this is a pretty bumpy lap, trying my best to be fast around this monster mile, but you gotta watch for the banking. The biggest thing to consider is how much you dive into these corners. At 24 degrees of banking, you want to cling to the bottom. More often than not, you'll see drivers diamond up off the corner just to get a better exit speed, have the wheel as straight as possible because that wall comes up quick. You dive back into turn 1, dab of the brake just a little bit, let the car roll through the center, and you'll see drivers up in different lanes tonight. I decided to stay to the bottom just to be loyal to it. You go back down into turn 3, big drop down. You see the car stepped out just a little bit for me there in turn 3, but the car was able to handle the rest of the throttle through the corner.
Oh, that was pretty good, though.
Yeah, I mean, I take pride in that being a pretty decent lap for me, but I think the drivers that will be racing tonight will be setting much faster laps, maybe tenfold compared to the lap that I said in a quick practice session. But the overall consensus is that Dover is that type of track that will challenge you a ton. And think of a 200 lap race. We go about 200 miles. That's physically taxing on the drivers too. I think those 2 laps took the wind out of me a little bit trying to drive it perfectly in the sim. 200 will be a very different story.
Yeah, absolutely right. 200 is a long time around this racetrack. It's one of the shorter races of the season overall when you consider just overall race length and distance, as here's a view at our schedule and what we've ran and where we are. There we are in round 9 at Dover. We'll be at Michigan next week, which will be a different racetrack to Dover completely. It'll be very super speedway-esque with Pocono, then Nashville, Gateway, and Daytona to round out our regular season. So again, just different variations of different racetracks in the next month or so that'll lead us into our playoff run. And there you see the race length. So you get just about 300 miles at Michigan, almost 400 miles at Pocono, before you get just a bit over 200 miles at the Nashville Super Speedway, before you get back to nearly 300 miles of action at the Gateway racetrack. So varying race distances and lengths will really make for different strategy calls and different things to expect when we show up to those races.
That's a good point, because we've seen over the stages this season with the 100% fuel, we don't often expect the pit road strategy to kick in the first part of the race, but when that third stage kicks in, that's where things really get antsy from the driver's perspective, and the teams are getting a little creative what kind of plans they want to execute when it comes down to the strategy to get up to the front. And you watched over there just the 8th race of this schedule, or the 9th race rather, as we get down to this 2025 campaign, and that leads us to the playoffs. Probably won't be long before we encounter that first race of the postseason at Charlotte. That's where we get our 16 best drivers, and we pin them down to get 4 at Homestead of Miami to run for the title. So plenty more action here in the Droppin' the Hammah Cup Series, but our storyline is Drinkin' Bros Racing. The way they've been able to dominate. Lawson Peele has won 3 races already, and with Craig Parks, 4th driver for DBR to win a race, alongside Peele, Schaefer, who won at Phoenix, and then Brandon Banks, who took home the win at the virtual Chicagoland Speedway. So do we expect the same level of dominance here tonight, Francisco? Early predictions from practice and qualifying do not see DBR as the favorite team. On the other side of things, it's KBueno Racing making their debut race tonight in the DTH Cup Series with Ethan Fonseca Moreno and the Kentucky native of Jaden Porter.
And those are 2 guys that are very contentious at the Dover Motor Speedway and concrete racetracks in general. That is something we have talked about in other shows plenty and plenty of times. KBueno Racing is a really fast and competitive team, and they're also particularly keen on these concrete racetrack. So Jaden Porter, very successful here at the Dover Motor Speedway. So is Ethan Fonseca Moreno. Both of them are going to be drivers contending for this win here tonight. So they're gonna be both ones to watch.
They've been very fast over practice. Qualifying seems promising for Moreno, and a bit for Porter as they try to set in their fastest 2 here around this Dover Motor Speedway. But you may want to be a Harlow going into these short track races. The last 2 short track events we've seen this season in Phoenix and in Loudon, a Harlow has either finished 2nd or has won the race. Stephen Harlow just close enough to Eric Schaefer. Didn't get him though at the checkered flag in those final laps in Avondale, Arizona. Ross Harlow being able to withstand the pressure from one of the best series drivers in Lawson Peele to get his first victory of this season at New Hampshire. So think about it. Harlow's may have a chance. Ross is pretty fast when it comes to this racetrack, and he seems to put that Chevrolet in good spots whenever the front row begins or the starting grid begins for a race. We'll see how that all pans out over 200 miles here from the Northeast and Dover, Delaware. Let's bring you down trackside and give you tonight's starting grid for the 9th race of this 2025 Droppin' the Hammah Cup Series season, where on the pole stands Ethan Fonseca Moreno, his first career pole in his first ever race, a 22.948, gets his Chevrolet to the front of the field. Ross Harlow in the 16 looking for his 2nd short track victory, here well off from the outside of the front row. Back in row number 2 is the Methuen, Massachusetts native of Steven Stempy, and he'll line it up 3rd with his Chevrolet. And Phoenix winner Eric Schaefer looking to go 2 for 2 on the short tracks, or at least 2 for 3 as it stands. He'll be on the outside in position number 4. Stephen Harlow, second fiddle at Phoenix earlier this season, will try to be one spot better at the checkered flag tonight. He rolls from 5th. Warren Kyle Keith, the St. Augustine, Florida native, going to roll off from the outside in position number 6. DTH's Alex Muscarella will bring his number 48 from 7th on the grid tonight. Richard Swavely in his number 32 car will roll off from 8th on the outside of row 4. Kip Easley in that Drinkin' Bros Racing number 8 Chevrolet puts it in 9th. And Brad Fulham, the Canadian driving the 19 car, rolls off just inside the top 10.
And 11th place is Jaden Porter, very successful driver at this racetrack. A little bit down the running order in P11 with Chris Cabot in the number 25 in P number 12. Justin Erb in his number 20 will be in 13th with Richard Motrich in the 14th position. P15 goes to Justin Hendry in his number 85 with James Kunkel in the 42 in 16th. Robert A. Moyer Jr. will be in the 17th position with Parker Bland making her return here in the 18th spot. Lawson Peel will be in the number 19 position, his number 9, the first not to take a time, which is a sample of what Peel has done this season. And then we have Cedric Hunter in the number 45 in P20.
Yeah, no surprise that we're seeing Lawson not take a qualifying time. Neither did Chicagoland winner Brandon Banks, who in the Sunoco Cup Series won a race here at the Monster Mile. Zachary Hall will kick it from 22nd on the starting grid in his number 23 for Category 5 Esports. Jason Hastings brings the in-and-out machine to 23rd on the grid. Casey Ninen still repping that throwback for the Havoline car from Talladega last week. He's got 24th on the grid this evening. Chris Progar, league owner, runs 25th. Kevin Roy in the 77 brings it from 26. And Eric Stewart will round out our 27 car field from Dover Motor Speedway. Let's get a look at our SK Sim Racing race analysis from Dover. 200 laps. That equals 200 miles here in the Northeast. About 321.8 kilometers. And our stages set up like this. 50, 50, and 100 until the end of this race. Probably won't see the strategy at the beginning like we've seen so many times. But there may be a new challenger in Ethan Fonseca Moreno who will ring this one from the pole. Him and Harlow take the green. And Harlow's already in the outside wall. 3 wide before lap 1 is complete to turn 1.
He might have spun the tires is what happened there to the 16. It caught him off guard. Not an ideal start for him. It stacked up the outside lane. Warren Kyle Keith has some front end damage in there as well, as they're all battling for position up and down the field. But it's going to be Ethan Fonseca Moreno in the number 87 Chevrolet that'll lead lap 1.
And already Harlow falls from 1st or 2nd to 5th place on the race, and thankfully didn't get tagged by Schaefer in the right spot to send him around. Harlow stays put, and the rest of the field follows suit. Harlow will already have to catch up, even though it's only been about 2 or so laps now that we cross the start-finish line. Stepien takes in place for 2nd, about a half-second back. Stephen Harlow back in 3rd. The rest of the field just settling each other out. But something you are to expect here at Dover, single-file trains very early. This is not a track for the faint-hearted. You can tell some of that damage there on Harlow affecting him as Schaefer dials up the inside, but won't see plenty side-by-side battles early because first several laps and first stage given to the drivers to get acclimated to this surface and what it's like in race trim as Schaefer makes the move for 5th.
And now that we've kind of settled out here the first couple laps, Kenneth, let's get a look and see exactly what happened to the 16 on the front row of the race stars. You see Schaefer get into the wall. Here's the view from Schaefer. There's the start, and you see right there the back end step out on the 16, and it stacked up the outside lane completely, allowing the first 3 rows or so to clear well away with Alex Muscarella settling into 4th there.
Solid move for Schaefer, just backing out, filling the space, but not getting into Harlow and dealing that much pressure. Although when it became green flag racing and he had to get around him, that's when Schaefer put on the heat. All of a sudden, he drops back to 7th. Richard Swavely going to be the one to make that move as he steps into the top 10, or at least the back half of it as it goes down. We'll try and take a look with our Charlie Bauer photography onboard camera with Ross Harlow, and some of that damage affecting the 16 car quite a bit. Probably not enough to take him out of this race for now or to slow him down all that much. Just another look at how taxing this Dover Motor Speedway is. Harlow steps back into 5th, chasing down his brother off of turn 4.
Baden Porter's made some good progress up to P8 so far. In turns 3 and 4, he just got a little bit of a hip check there by Kip Easley in the center of the corner as he's in a DBR sandwich in between Eric Schaefer and Kip Easley. And Harlow the brother to Ross Harlow race winner a couple weeks ago, trying to see if he can get one for himself. Has been close a handful of times, as there's Porter now charging up the outside of Eric Schaefer. Good move to get there. Schaefer gives him the lane on the outside, so the 91 enters the preferred lane here, and he's going to try to see if he can get up to P7 and look forward to the 32 for P6.
We'll see what happens with Porter banging off of Schaefer. They're off of turn 2, and it's getting physical already through the first 8 laps. Porter is still maintaining that outside groove and making sure that it may work here out of turn 4. Beats Schaefer to the line. Can he clear him to turn 1? And the answer is yes. And Porter, Moreno first, and now in 7th, the 2 KBueno Racing Chevrolets that are taking the green flag for the first time this season. Have not been around, of course, when the season began, but they are household names in the 4-wide racing series that we broadcast here on Wednesdays on the KBueno Racing Network. Sparked some interest in joining this series on Sunday nights, paid the fee to get in, and now the 87, the 91 car are going to be in the series, hopefully for the rest of the campaign. We should also expect Steven Maggio, car number 80, I believe 89.
91, or 97 actually.
97, that will join us perhaps the next race, or maybe down the line in this regular season. But Moreno already showing his dominance early, although he's let the gap slip back just a little bit. Stempien is back within a 10th or so, and a car length, and Droppin the Hammah as a team will start to apply the pressure here. And you get the onboard look for Moreno's Chevrolet. It's a Connor Zillage Red Bull paint scheme that he's bearing tonight. And that Droppin the Hammah car right behind is staying put with him. Alex Muscarella not too far behind in 3rd as well.
87 and 88 are a couple of Trackhouse numbers, and if you count the 91, that's 3 of them in the top 6. But of course, different actual teams. As you see Muscarella go way up high there in turns 1 and 2. There's not much rubber on the racetrack right now, but it gives you a really good run like he does the 48 there. You see Stempien look to the bottom of Ethan Fonseca going into turn 3, and the 87 will hold the outside lane, which is going to be very... it's the preferred lane when someone's trying to make a pass on the bottom. That car on the inside could get very loose or very tight, either or, depending how they approach the corner. You see the 87 drift way up. It allows the 88 to go up as well, but Ethan's going to get a really good run off the corner and clear once again. And Stempien's not in a good enough of a position here to try something different because Muscarella's right there and ready for the taking if something were to occur to Stempien. So he's in a little bit of a box, but it is still only lap 14 as they have just begun. So Stempien trying to see if he can do something here at Dover, a track he's really ecstatic about, but he's going to have to hold position for now.
And Stempien, who swept both stages last week at Talladega, he'll face Muscarella here, fighting for 2nd into turn 3. Stempien just dealt with the toughest task of them all, right? Getting the inside on the race leader and trying to make it stick. When we've seen these Dover races in the past with these next-gen cars, the same is similar. When you go to the inside and you try to make a move on the car up top, chances are you may not have the time to put the throttle back in earlier than the other guy, and then when you're off of the 4th or 2nd corner, you may be in a predicament where you have to slow down the race car, and it helps the top-sided race car get all that much more momentum. But Alex Muscarella made it look easy there in turns 3 and 4. New race leader, lap 15, now 16. The Monza man in 48 car.
Well, he could also be pushing his race car. We've seen that happen in many races this season where drivers will push the car a lot early in the run to get the track position to try and get up there and then hold on if they're able to at the end of the run. Ethan Fonseca is known for saving his tires pretty good in the series he does run, so probably not putting up too much of a fight with Muscarella, and is going to try to keep some kind of pressure there as he tries to save his tires as best as he can. We saw the 48 charge up through there with the 88 and the 87. So we'll see in a couple laps time what that does for him and his tire situation. Right now, looking at Lawson Peel, he's driven his way up into P12. He is just sitting behind the 25 of Chris Cabot. And we know Lawson Peel in this series likes to bide his time, Kenneth. He is never in a rush to get through the running order, especially in stage 1 as he goes to the inside of the 25 and takes the position away there. Lawson Peel consistently in stage 1, very methodical about how he decides to go up through the pack. And usually gets stage points even with the amount of patience he displays. But before this race is over, number 9 is going to be in the top 5.
Somebody's got to call up Plankton because Lawson appears to have found the secret formula for winning races in this series. He always starts at the back, and it's typical to see him not put in a time in qualifying. You'd think, that's opposite and counterintuitive, right, to not run a qualifying time, because why would you not want track position? But Peel has executed the level of speed that regardless of where he starts, he is able to knife his way through the field like a knife through hot butter and be able to find his way through the field, get to the front, and get the points when it matters most. And, you know, it's exemplary of what DBR has shown throughout this season, Francisco. A lot of times you don't see them dominate early in the race. Typically takes them a little longer to find their rhythm, but once they do, that's when they strike, and they strike hard. It's given them several race wins this season. It's helped Lawson achieve 3 already in the first half or so of the regular campaign. Left side of your screen, battle for the lead, and Lawson already cutting through the pack, now in the 10th spot.
Yeah, Drinking Bros Racing has 6 of the 8 wins so far this season, so they've just been completely on fire. And it's like we talked about a couple laps ago, the pass on the inside is going to be tough, and because of how much the 48 pushed to get to the lead, even if the 87 has better tires, it's just going to be that much tougher because now you're using maximum grip to try and do it. And if you can't hold the bottom consistently and get a run, it's just going to hurt you. And you saw it right there. Tried to make a move, and ultimately it cost them a position to Steven Stempian. So the Massachusetts native now up to P2 again, but this time trailing the 48.
Yeah, Mascarella will continue to lead some laps. He was put under fire a bit by Moreno, but just helped him stay back. Stempian was able to charge to second, and now DTH as a team has control. 1, 2, and 4th place as Stephen Harlow steps in right behind. And take a look at the background of that image. Jaden Porter has now moved up into 5th, so could be another late charger over the course of this opening run. Remember, we do go to lap 50, so we're nearly halfway for all those stage points. Stempian, who's already won a couple this year, will look to add on to his tally despite not having a race win in 2025. And Mascarella, who achieved his 2nd best finish of the season on our last short track race of the campaign at New Hampshire, will try to get some more success here tonight. Hasn't led that many over the course of his career, at least as we look at this season. But good stuff from Mascarella early, sideways off.
The yellow's out.
And there's our first yellow flag of the night. Jason Hastings, heavy right front damage off of turn 2.
That right front is absolutely destroyed, and the right front tire itself, it is killed. So some heavy wall contact for the 4 car. We'll just have to see what happened to allow the 4 car to get into this situation. So here's our replay, and there's Hastings. And you see him start to drop the pace off halfway down the front straightaway. Look like, there was a wreck up there in front. A couple cars involved. And then Hastings right here gets loose and turns right.
I don't know, maybe an overcorrection there for Hastings' Chevrolet, but we have to unpack that a little more because James Kunkel was the initial cause of concern. Him and Chris Progar got together off of turn 4. So here's a look at it. The battle for position, and Cedric Hunter up the road. Richard Modric makes the contact initially. It's Chris Progar who sends Kunkel hard into the inside barrier. Kunkel had led a couple of laps at Talladega last week. And then in the run-up to turn 1, that's where Hastings gets sideways. He goes right into the outside wall, and the car sustains.
And we have split strategies on pit road.
Drivers on pit road now. Mascarella and company will elect to stay out, and several guys at the back decide this is their time to come in. Casey Knighton, there's Progar, the damaged Chevrolet, the Toyota of Kevin Roy. And then whatever Jason Hastings is dealing with right now with the right front toe link that's apart, Parker Bland is coming out of pit road as well. And so usual to see those drivers that got damaged to come down for that repair, but plenty of other guys are finding themselves in. There's Ross Harlow, Eric Schaefer, the 2 who tussled on the opening lap of this race, Francisco, losing their track position early, and Jaden Porter will come out as the emerging driver first off of the pit lane, just via strategy, no damage repair for him.
Yeah, he had no damage at any point in this race, so that's just a different strategy he's trying to do. The track temperature is at 100 degrees, even though the ambient is at 72. But looking at the amount of tire sets they have in this race, Kenneth, they have 6 available to them. And this is one being used right there. You're usually guaranteed to use one at the stages, so I think what they're hoping for is this is a play to try to see what new tires will do compared to these 20 or so lap tires, and definitely make up some positions that way. We know Porter was quick, and even on that long run, he was starting to run faster laps than the top 4 in front of him as they bunched up. So Porter going to try to see what new tires will do, and I wouldn't surprise me if he drove his way up there to the lead, restarting in 16th.
Each driver is given 5 sets of Goodyear Eagles, and I believe that does include the set that you start with on lap number 1. And so Porter seems to just throw this one out the window and say, you know, it's my first race, why not try and gamble a little bit? Not sure if KBueno Racing at this stage is going to run for the playoffs, given how late they have joined the campaign, but they're in it to win. And Porter is going to try the first bit of alternate strategy. He will have a bunch of other drivers around him. Justin Hendry is in the ballpark, so is Parker Bland. Eric Stewart did not come down pit road, but he recycles in 17th. Kevin Roy, Richard Swavely, Casey Knighton, and the list continues for those guys that did hit pit road. Think about 85% of it for damage repair. The other 15 just looking to get an edge here in the second half of stage number 1. Droppin the Hammah will have control, getting to the restart. Lap 28, the 48 car bursts onto the scene, and Alex Muscarella brings us back to racing from Dover.
And you see the inside's going to struggle to get launched here all night long if the leader's on the outside, as Ethan gets right up to the rear bumper of the 48, gets tight and almost into the 88 on the outside, but they're able to get through turn 2 clean. There's Stephen Harlow on the outside trying to get through, and Lawson Peel going up to the very outside, battling teammate for P5.
You got to think about what Moreno does here now that he's trapped on the inside. Look at Chris Cabot, background car number 25, sliding into the inside to make a move for 6th place on Kip Easley. Lawson Peel will try to get the run off of turn number 2, and does he do anything with it? Answer is help Harlow down the straightaway. Moreno forces more pressure, drops to 5th, maybe even 6th if Kip Easley gets to him. They're nearly 3 wide. Porter on the fresh tires on the outside.
He's made it 3 wide all the way up against the outside wall the last lap or 2 to get by the traffic, making it 3 wide, and he finds himself up into 6th. He's got his teammate in front of him. He goes to the inside to make the move for P5, as here's Steven Stempian now trying to chase down the 48 once again, but it'll be all for nothing. That 91 is absolutely charging.
Gotta wonder what these guys are gonna do. If they just let Porter through, or if they try to play a little defense. There's a look from the back bumper. Charlie Byer Photography on board camera with the Massachusetts native of Stempian. And look how fast Porter is off of the corner. It is almost insurmountable to get around and make sure this 91 stays at bay. He'll charge to 3rd. He'll look off turn 4 with a chance to slide underneath the 88 car in turn 1. As a lap 32 so far, racing control of Droppin the Hammah, but maybe not for long. Here comes Porter, outside look for 2nd.
And he'll have a chance for the race lead on the next lap. You see him blinking right now, but he gets the outside spot on the 88, and expect this crossover move on the 48 off of turn 4.
You look for it here. Muscarella will just watch as the 98-91 car looks to the inside, and new race leader for the 2nd time tonight. Jaden Porter takes the lead at lap 33 on the freshest set of tires of the field. Meanwhile, battle for 4th heating up. Moreno at the back end of side-by-side between Stephen Harlow and Lawson Peel. Lawson rolled off in the top 20 of this race. Again, didn't put a qualifying time in, but it doesn't matter. Harlow sideways off the corner, and Peel still underneath.
And Stempian just got by Muscarella for P2, so it took long enough for Stempian to get by both Ethan Fonseca and Alex Muscarella, but it's still P2 for the 88, as Jaden Porter on the alternative strategy finds himself in the race lead, leading his first career laps. And Moreno gets by Zachary Hall, as Lawson Peel dropped a couple of positions there, as there's the onboard with Ross Harlow. He's racing Ethan Fonseca Moreno, as now Cedric Hunter slowly starts to creep his way through the traffic, and you can tell that the 91 charged up through there, using every bit of his Goodyear Eagle to get to the race lead, get the track position. A couple other guys on that same strategy are taking it a little bit more methodical, trying not to use them up as much. There's Parker Bland. She's one of the drivers that decided to take tires on that pit stop, and she's done great so far. Finds herself up into P7 and looking to try and take P6 from the 11.
Look to the outside here. That's Cedric Hunter, Lawson Peel in the background, and it's the first time that we see Parker Bland in action in a couple of weeks' time. We haven't seen her take the racetrack since, I believe, you look back in the schedule, I don't even know if we go back to Road America, maybe even before that Parker was driving this 13 on the raceway, but she's back in action here from the Monster Mile and wants to run way up near the outside wall. We'll try and split Moreno through the middle. There's Hall on the inside. Parker Bland survives, and she moves on forward to 4th. What a move through the top shelf.
And you can tell that this is where the tires are making their big difference now, as most of them from the further backside of the field are working their way into the top 10. Lawson Peel is getting eaten up now by drivers on the newer tires. He is down into 13th as Casey Knighton, Richard Swavely, and Ross Harlow are now currently battling Warren Kalskis for 10th place position on the points, as there's Parker Bland already caught up to the back of the 88, and she should be able to make this pass up to P2. All this almost 2.5 seconds behind Jaden Porter.
3 starts for Parker Bland this season. Last time we saw her racing this series was at Auto Club back in late February, so it does go way beyond Road America in her first road course race of the season. It took me a little bit, Francisco, just to find her name on the sheet, just because we haven't seen her in a bit of a while. But that UPS Toyota Camry, same look that we've seen for most of the campaign from car number 13, going to spearhead the D-Legacy Motor Club effort here as she slides to second. It's still a long road to overcome if she wants to make a move on Jaden Porter and slide into the top spot just before this stage is complete. Now it's the brawl between all those guys on the older tires. We saw Stephen Harlow fall a bit back to the clutches of the field. He's back to 12th place. Lawson Peel let the entire field by, and he slid to 13th. And that leaves Category 5 Esports' Zachary Hall with a run up front, and Ross Harlow trying to avenge himself from the lap 1 slide before the start-finish line.
He's also got new tires on his number 16 Chevrolet, as he's trying to hold off Zachary Hall and Warren Kyle Keith. Keith is on those newer tires, as Moreno a little bit further back gets passed by Richard Swavely, who's also on those new tires. So the 87 is down to 9th. Casey Knighton drives to the outside in his Toyota to take over that 9th position. So now Moreno, the last one inside the top 10, though Cedric Hunter might try to do battle with him for that position.
Harlow, who won our last short track race at New Hampshire, technically in Sim Racer Hub it's listed as a speedway and not a proper short track, but the miler in New Hampshire was one that Harlow found particularly fun to race. 144 laps led in that one. Already tried to lead one tonight, but with the hiccup on the opening lap of the race, Harlow is putting on a stellar comeback. And the only driver after the run of DBR's dominance from Schaefer, Banks, and Lawson Peel winning races, Harlow was the one man to break the streak and get one for Droppin the Hammah this season. Still the only driver of that DTH camp to get a win for that respective team. And he's bringing Warren Kyle Keith in tow with him. One of the best qualifiers we've seen over the course of the season, but one that still has not found the magic at the racetracks this year. He has about an average start of 5.6 on the racetrack, but his average finish sits 7.1 positions behind. 12.7 is where you often find old Fourname at the end of these races. Tonight could be the change, as he's got a hefty Toyota Camry that's got speed behind it. Denny Hamlin throwback for car number 78. 5 laps left to go in stage number 1, though. Warren Kyle Keith will probably settle for 4th or 3rd on points. Everything in the hands of Jaden Porter coming to the end of the first stage.
Taking 5 laps to go in this stage is the 91. He's got 2.5 seconds on the 13 of Parker Bland. And looking up through this top 10, Richard Swavely, Kenneth, has found himself up into the top 5 on the alternative strategy. So a good run for the 32, as Stempia now is going to get overtaken possibly by the 28 of Casey Knighton. That's for the 6th position on the right side of your screen. And Muscarella currently sits in 9th, and Ethan Fonseca Moreno still battling with Cedric Hunter for the 10th place position, and it looks like the 45 has gotten by the 87 now for that spot, but Muscarella has drifted back to this group, so he's really fallen off.
Yeah, Muscarella, who led this race early on, took the lead away from Moreno at the first 25 laps of this race, falling back. Moreno, the pole sitter, already dropping through, but it appears the old tire call to stay out did not pan out the way that they expected it to, and they will fall out of points-paying efforts. You look at the strongest drivers that we've seen so far tonight, apart from Steven Stempian, who still resides in the top 8 or so. Moreno's in 11th, Stephen Harlow back in 12th, and Lawson Peel remains in 13th place, so they will miss out on what will be some crucial stage points. I'm sure for Stempian, thinks everything is all good because he swept both stages last week at Talladega despite not winning the race, but for those other guys, they need some desperate points, specifically Moreno if he wants a shot at the title, although I'm not sure if he'll meet the minimum threshold for starts needed to make it. Off of the final corner, Jaden Porter will see the white flag in stage number 1, and the gap remains simple to Ross Harlow, who has just moved past Parker Bland, who was formerly in second. 2.2 seconds between the two Chevrolets. Warren Kyle Keith steps into 3rd, and then Parker, who was up into 2nd and appears to have used her set of Goodyear Eagles, and maybe at the clutches of falling outside of the top 5. But the gamble pays off, and in his first race, Jaden Porter will take stage 1 from Dover.
And Harlow was battling Moreno just enough for Muscarella to hang on off of turn 4 for the final points paying position.
What a battle that was between those three. As the yellow flag waves, 10th car is passed, first yellow thrown. And for Jaden Porter, he will just relax and wait for the pace car to pick him and the rest of the field up. And what a gamble that was, Francisco. Probably a bit of a questionable decision. 20-ish laps in the books when you think of the guys that right now are the favorites to run for the championship this year. But Porter says, why not? Puts his hand out the window, comes down pit road for the 4 freshies, and the car sits pretty at the front of the field. Harlow back in second. Warren Kyle Keith will enjoy the third in points. So all three of them will enjoy some good end to the stage, specifically in Ross, who already has a win here in 2025. And I guess now it's all about everybody being on the same playing field. Only problem is those front 4 or so will have to deal with burning off their second set of Goodyear Eagles this time by.
It won't be ideal to be down a set compared to most of the field, but if it, in this situation, actually worked out really fine because it went green the whole way and they got exactly what they were probably hoping for. So we'll see how the rest of this race plays out. The timing of caution flags is going to be very crucial for what they decide to do for the rest of the race in terms of their tire strategies. But with 4 remaining for most of the field and 3 remaining, and we know we were using a set at the end of the second stage, there's a good possibility that they still have tire sets to play with.
Well, it's still a long race to go. Another 50 for stage number 2. And on this run out of pit road, Jaden Porter will see the top spot. I was just about to ask, look at Harlow. What a surge off of pit lane. And Ross Harlow stuns Jaden Porter, stealing the lead off of pit road. Wow.
Wow.
How about that?
Incredible stuff there.
Stage 1.
Once again, this league always with the end of pit road, always being extremely tight. The margin to the start finish or to the race off pit road line. There's the replay, the 16. You see he's behind and he accelerates to get there. And that's the tight margin. We'll get a second look just to see how close it actually is, as the 16 did not speed in that situation. He'll keep the race lead. And there's the run to the actual line on the right side of the screen. Kenneth, you cannot get closer than that.
I don't know how we're scripting these photo finishes off pit road, but it almost looked like Porter had it in the bag. And it's a quick burst from Ross Harlow to get him to the front. So while Harlow saw the mistake befall him right off the restart in stage number 1 to kick off this race, now he will see the front row for the second time this evening, this time in control of the field. We just passed lap number 53, which is our Race Week Dave Bush tribute lap. Dave Bush was a good friend of Steven Stempien and everyone here at the Droppin' the Hammah Cup Series. Had a celebration of life race in Michigan that Stempien and a bunch of other community members hosted on the sim. I had the great chance to cover that race and to give the thoughts and prayers to Dave, who unfortunately lost his battle not too long ago. So on lap 53, for every race this season, we try to honor Dave with a silent lap. But since we had stage 1 conclude, we had our race under caution throughout our Dave Bush lap. Why don't we send it with a proper tribute and run it green with Ross Harlow and Jaden Porter on the front row. Our thoughts with Dave, always. As Jaden Porter looked underneath to turn 3, thought he had a shot at the top spot. Ross Harlow denied him the opportunity, shut the door entering the corner, and your top 3 separated by at least 0.2 of a second. Parker Bland fending off the competition from 3rd, but Jaden Porter once more. He's hungry already. A look on board from Harlow, leading the race to lap 57.
How about Fourname up there in P3, Kenneth?
A great run by Warren to push through the field and keep his head forward. He will ding the inside of the 91 Chevrolet off of turn 2. Will not have the momentum to dive down there. But Warren, like we said, has the best average start of anyone in this series, has captured several poles in 2025. Still looking to put that final puzzle piece together as he works the inside on Porter. Found a way to shake the Kentucky native off of turn 4, and Warren Kyle Keith will look for second place off of turn 2.
Once again, that inside pass is going to be so difficult to get done. As if Steven Stempe now diving to the bottom of the 32 of Richard Swave, a little bit further back, and he'll clear for position in the middle of 3 and 4. Lawson Peel's on the comeback as well. He's up to P9, getting past Zachary Hall into 23. As here's the onboard once again, Warren Kyle Keith goes to the inside. He has the 16 in front of him, the 91 to his outside. Not an ideal spot to be in, but look at Jaden Porter gets a big run, clears to the inside. He's going to go for the move.
He'll look to the inside in turn 3, the lunge down the bottom alley, and he won't get it. Again, the middle lane sustains for Harlow defensively, and he will stay down at the front of this field. Harlow remains in control to lap number 60, which will mean the 40 lap to go mark for stage number 2. And with the battle going on for second, that allowed a patient Parker Bland to step forward. She's running in 4th, didn't have that much pressure from Richard Swavely. Things may change once the co-owner of the race league, Steven Stempian, finds his way through, but the 13 car strategy paid off tenfold for her, and she's getting that UPS car tons of TV and spotlight time here in this top 5.
And she's deserved it, Kenneth, because it has been a rough couple of weeks in the attempts that she has made. Just hasn't had a lot of luck. Went on the alternative strategy, got some really good stage points, and even on the equal tire set now, continues to run inside the top 5. So great job by the driver of that UPS machine in P4. And just up in front, continuing with this 3-way battle for the top position as the 91 drifts up high and almost gets tapped by the 78 behind him, but Porter gets to the bottom once again.
Problem is, he hasn't been able to fully complete the pass when you get down to this 24 degrees of banking. And it's been hard for drivers to make moves down there. It didn't pan out the way that Stempian wanted it to earlier in the race. Worked out for Muscarella's attempt, but for Jaden Porter, he's going to stay put, hungry down the bottom, but no real say as to who's the race leader properly entering turn 3.
Well, Porter had a good opportunity the last time because he did something like that. He was able to get the nose out in front of the 16 and kind of dictate a little bit better than if he was behind Harlow, as Harlow just gets a really good middle of the corner and is able to clear once again. Porter doing a great job of trying to make the bottom work. One of the better drivers at making that bottom work here in a pass attempt, but has to settle for P2 still. Looking further back, no real moves have been made as Ethan Fonseca now is continuing to battle with a former foe of his in Lawson Peel.
But you got to think, Francisco, the patience level for Porter as he's worked the inside a couple of times in this specific run, and at what point do you start to balance out the attempted looks at the inside versus either trying another line or just staying put behind the leader and waiting for them to pop out a mistake? Because we've seen, especially over the long run, you work the inside too many times over and over that ends up unsuccessfully. You may wear out that right front tire more than you like. As a driver, Francisco, do you try to balance out the lanes that you run, or do you still remain adamant at getting the inside on the race leader and working it no matter what happens?
Well, with the 100% fuel, the car is a little bit freer than it would be under most league circumstances, so I think he might not burn the right front off as much as he normally would in other instances, but we also know Jaden Porter is really good at saving tires with this car and here in general, so I think he won't do anything that'll necessarily jeopardize his tire wear for this race lead, especially while running P2 early on in this race. So we'll see how he progresses, what he does in the closing laps, but he continues to try and find some kind of clean air. But when you are single file like this, Kenneth, it is absolutely crucial to run the bottom of the racetrack. You don't really want to experiment too much in other lines unless it's to make a pass or defend a pass. Otherwise, you will just use up that rubber a little bit more than otherwise intended.
And the onboard look from Harlow shows the desperate attempts for Porter to move through to the race lead. He's working the high side, looking down low. He's trying the diamond approach, and it has not panned out for him. And even though he has been unsuccessful, he remains in front of Warren Kyle Keith, who at any moment could look to the inside or the outside. And here comes Porter. Wanted to touch up, and he may get it off of turn number 2. A wonderful surge up high for Porter, but
he got loose.
Work. He ends up backing out, and Warren Kyle Keith nearly got to the inside.
That was such a power move to get to the outside like that on the 16, and he gets the wall there off of turn 4, but I think he got loose off of 2, Kenneth, and that's why he wasn't able to stay there. Let's see if we can get a second look at it.
And there's Warren Kauki to the inside. Right side of your screen was the attempt by Porter. Wasn't expecting to see him surge up high so quickly, but he got the nose on the quarter panel of the 16. And when you're on the top side,
right there sideways, look at that.
You put the throttle in a little too early. Either car gets into the driver down low, or you get a right front wear down and you work up to the outside wall. Thankfully for Porter, it keeps him out of trouble, but it gives away second place for Warren Kyle Keith, the Florida native, who then will take on Ross Harlow's Chevrolet, looking for the lead with 30 laps to go in this second stage. And right before Talladega Superspeedway, the streak of top 10s for Harlow started in late February at Auto Club, where he rolled off 7th and ended up finishing in that exact same position, then third, then the race win in New Hampshire that got him above the clouds, and then reached rock bottom 24th at Talladega Superspeedway after being involved in some crashes. Now leading in control at Dover, but with hefty competition in his rear view mirror. Here comes Warren Kyle Keith. Look for the lead down the inside.
Gets loose. Porter will take over now the outside position on the 78 to see if he can roll through back into P2 as well. But on that move, you have to get to the outside, and he had to get on the throttle as he gets into the outside wall again. So Porter struggling off these corners the last couple of laps, and look who's popped into P4 now. It's the 88 of Steven Stempien, got past the 13 of Parker Bland, and is now sitting right behind these leaders as Warren Kauki look to the inside. He'll tuck back in line.
The accordion is starting to crunch together. You got 3 drivers within 0.2 of a second. Now invite the 3rd, now invite the 4th car in the group, or at least the 4th and 5th car of this group in the 88 and the 13. Warren again fails to get to the inside of Harlow. Now Porter looks to the outside. And you gotta wonder what you're gonna do here if you're either Keith or Porter using up your tires just to get by the guy in clean air. And it has not worked out. You see that drop in the Hammah Chevrolet in the rearview mirror. I don't know if you start to panic here, considering Steven has had enough time to have enough tire wear to where he's been able to save the right front better than everyone else up front. But it's all a matter of time to see whether he unleashes a move in these next couple of laps or not. 25 now counting to the end of stage number 2, and Warren remains adamant at getting to the front of this pack. Works the outside, crossover move down low, nabs the apron, and the 16 car stays in control back to turn 3.
As there was almost a crash on the front straightaway. It was the 85 of Justin Hendry getting sideways and nearly bringing out our third caution of this race. As there's the 48 sideways, as we've just mentioned, that in front of Lawson Peel. The top 5 cars are all within 1 second of each other, and the top 8 are within 1.5 seconds. So the front of the field's really according up behind the 16. Even though he's had that clean air, he's just been struggling to keep the tires under him because he has been under fire constantly. As there's Justin Hendry, he might get into the pit barrels.
Slowing down right before the pit barrels, and he has to park it into reverse. Chris Progar on the way there. The 2 slow cars going to the inside of the racetrack. And remember, Progar had some trouble earlier on tonight getting into James Kunkel. That was part of the first caution of this race. And up front, Jaden Porter lunges it down to turn 3. Almost makes the contact to the side door of the 16 car. And for now, we remain side by side, but that fizzles out quickly. Here comes Stempien. Look inside for 3rd.
Stempien tried, and he almost gets towards the left rear of the 91 to try and battle for 2nd. Almost contact off of 2. Porter trying to see if he could get the outside again on Harlow. We saw him do it once, but I think he might have learned from that in terms of how to hold the outside on the 16 if he was able to do it again. He doesn't want the bottom at all, as he knows that the 88 will be there 2 pounds, and Lawson Peel methodically has worked his way up into P5, got past the 16 of Parker Bland, who is starting to fade now down to P7. So look out, that number 9 car, the Jaws theme is slowly starting to play.
And remember, Peel had missed out on stage points in the opening stage of this race because of that different strategy that Porter and several others used to get to the front of the field. Peel had to nurse those old Goodyear Eagles to the end and ended up 13th as they got back to the stripe to conclude the opening stage at lap 50. Stempien slides underneath Porter, makes the move look easy, plants the Chevrolet, now behind at least a car length or 2 from the 16 car, who will lead this one to 20 to go in stage number 1. And it's a tough cat. Ross Harlow continues in the lead, and here comes Keith inside for 3rd place behind.
He's tried moving up the racetrack to get really good runs off the corner, and he's going to get loose there on the bottom. Is going to get the 9 car to his outside, so he'll be down in 5th, and goes with Stempion for the lead.
Stempion looking underneath in his first proper chance at the lead since the first 25 laps. Car number 88 dials on the inside. Harlow nearly taps the wall. Stempion plants, turns, fires for the lead, and it's not going to work. In the middle of the corner, Harlow stays put, and we are still even off turn 2. And here comes Peel to 3rd.
Don't look now, but Lawson Peel in the P3 as these two battle. We could be 3 wide if they're not careful.
Unbelievable battle we're seeing in these final 17. A look on board from the Mississippi native of Lawson Peel, already a 3-time winner, but one who can stunt here at Dover Motor Speedway. He's got the front row seat with the popcorn in hand, and despite Stempion looking to the bottom, it won't work. Contact to the inside. Here's Peel to 2nd to turn 3.
If he gets to the outside of the 16, you could basically book the position, because that 16 is just struggling on his tires, just unable to really get out in front of everybody as they've all stacked up behind him. And there goes Peel continuing to look to the outside, trying to mount a run. Stempion is not going to let him go diamond the corner the way he wants to. Gets a big run, looks to the inside on Harlow.
I don't think there's been a moment where we haven't seen a car on the inside of Harlow, at least within these final 10 in this stint. We'll go to the final 15 of stage number 2, and how long can Harlow last up front? They're reaching lap traffic. I believe it's Chris Pogar in the 7 who the field will catch up to first, and there will possibly be the chance that Pogar looks to the inside and lets the entire field through, but if they catch him mid-corner, it may be deep trouble for the Till Valhalla Project Chevrolet. To the inside again. Now Lawson Peel looks up high, can't get it off the 24 degrees of banking. The run may be enough to look to the bottom, and he'll negate the opportunity. Back to turn 1.
And that's a teammate of the 16 and the 88 up there is Chris Pogar. If he doesn't let the field go, we'll see how much of a role he plays as the lap car in this incredible 5-car battle for the lead that it seems to have gone on the entire stage.
The 30-year-old from Augusta, Maine, probably the hardest he's had to race the field throughout the entire season. We know how close him and Peel were to getting into each other several times in New Hampshire. The constant tussle for the lead then. It revives tonight.
Oh, Peel's got to run.
And Peel's going to look to the bottom again for the lead, coming to 12 to go in stage 2.
Oh, he gets into the apron and makes contact.
And another defensive stance by Harlow keeps him up front by barely a car length. And does Peel try again?
There goes Warren Keith charging to the outside of Porter, nearly gets into the wall as he drove up into the marbles, and Peel looks to the bottom again of that number 16, and that might not be the same Roush car, Kenneth, but it has definitely some lessons learned from Ryan Newman.
And he
and Peel gets
on
tight.
The middle lane. Here comes Stempion. Possible look underneath as Peel bobbled up out of turn 4. And by the way, still in this fight is Jaden Porter and Warren Keith. Even though they used a bit more of their Goody Eagles, they are still here. They are not out of the fight quite yet. And Porter will push Peel back to 2nd, clear Stempion into turn 3 once more.
I don't think I've ever seen this much of an intense battle with this many cars at Dover, Kenneth.
And it's unbelievable. This track probably the hardest to drive in this second half stint of the season. And we're seeing a classic build-up coming to 8 laps to go. Parker Bland has found some trouble as the UPS car stranded on the inside of the racetrack. We'll keep in touch with Bland, see if she has some toe link damage. But the former top 5 race car now sits all the way back in 22nd, a lap down. Peel hounding the rear bumper of the 16 car, looking to the inside. 8 to go in the second stage.
And I found the trouble spot for the 23 and the 13. They were racing each other. I believe that was for the final stage point spot. And then right there, some slight contact, and the overcorrect by Bland into the outside wall kills her right front. And ultimately, she had to still limping around the racetrack, and it has brought it down into the pit lane. 2 laps down is the number 13.
And we talked about her early season struggles, her first attempt to race in this season since Auto Club in late February. And the struggles continue for the 13 car. Still some opportunity to get some.
There's the move to the outside.
And be back in this race. But for now, eyes on the race leader. Ross Harlow has withstood the pressure for so long, but does the damn break. Now Jaden Porter retakes 2nd. He wants the lead from the outside coming to turn 2. And Francisco, they are doing everything in their power to get a run off the corner and beat Harlow off to the straightaway, but it doesn't work.
Well, Porter's the only one we saw get to the outside of the 16, and you could tell that that's what he's trying to do once again, but just doesn't really have a whole lot of grip. You see Luke to the bottom trying to fake out the 16, but Ross Harlow has done a masterful job of placing his car in the right position to hang on to the top spot, has made no mistakes so far. We'll get 5 laps to go in the stage this time by. There goes Porter again to the outside.
And watch Porter's attempt to get a run up out of turn 1 and then work to the inside to turn 2. Obviously, it's to get the throttle pedal in earlier to get the wheel as straight as possible so the car doesn't step out. He goes way up to the outside wall, and this time may have goofed it a little bit. Stepien could look to the inside off of turn 2. But despite the pressure from everyone second on back, Harlow hasn't switched his line. He's remained in the middle. He hasn't moved an inch, either up or down on the racing surface. So you don't need to fix what's already good. And Ross Harlow will continue up
Porter to the bottom.
Porter looks to the inside again with 3 to go. In the second stage, Porter trying to become the second straight race where a driver sweeps both stages and become the second driver to do so.
Oh, good dive. He's cleared him.
He's to the inside and he's got it. But does Harlow fight back? He's got the inside. And they make contact off turn 4 twice. Harlow back down. 2 to go.
But Porter has the preferred line, and you see him drift way up the racetrack, but he's going to get a big run off this corner. The 91 with a big run off the corner. Harlow trying his best to hang on in there. Stepien looks to the bottom. Jaden Porter takes the lead.
Does the 16 car drown in these final few? Jaden Porter, who used alternate strategy to get to the front in stage 1, will try to sweep them both tonight from Dover in his first start. And he's already 0.3 of a second ahead of Harlow. The big difference in pace between those two evident. Harlow's dam finally broke. The wall has been shattered. And here comes Keith and Stepien looking for second place.
And I think that 78 might have gotten into the back of the 16, but you could tell just how much he was holding this crew up because Porter immediately has put on half a second on these guys as they start the final lap of the stage.
You know, it takes a bit to lose time when you're side by side on the racetrack. Jaden Porter made it look easy as soon as he took the race lead away. Stepien slides into second. Harlow will stay with stage points, but not sure where he will end up. And for the 3rd time this season, we'll have a driver sweep both stages in a race. Stepien did it last week. It's Jaden Porter this time around. Stage 2 complete.
Arguably, Kenneth, I don't think you can find a single stage in any league we've covered that has been more intense and action-packed the entire way through, even including super speedways.
Think of it, throughout the entire 50, maybe 46 lap stretch, Francisco, the top 3 all within at least 2 to 3/10 of a second.
Wow. Can't get better than that.
And for the second time tonight, Jaden Porter will enjoy the playoff N10 bonus points that go his way. Stepien with a solid finish through second after a stage where he fell back on old tires but kept it into 8th place. Ross Harlow, who missed out on stage points at lap number 50, this time gets some more points in stage 2. But he lost out on potentially the playoff points to give him the upper edge. And for the top 10, it appears Zachary Hall, Ethan Fonseca Moreno in that range for battling for that 1 spot left. And it appears 10th place will go to the 23 of Zachary Hall. Moreno for the 2nd straight stage, despite starting on the pole, will come up short and come up empty-handed as here is the field down pit road for what is Porter the 3rd time tonight. For most of the field, just the 2nd. Francisco, do we see any more surprises this time?
We're only halfway through this race, so there's definitely plenty still yet to happen in this one. I'm surprised the 87 has struggled in that 2nd stage to really make some moves. He's shown some speed, and when he was in the front earlier before the first caution of this race, he was able to hold position pretty neatly as Porter exits his pit stall right there, and should expect the 91 to win the race off of pit road. There's Stepien trying to get up to P2. He'll do so as Harlow takes away 3rd. And we'll see if we can get a word with our stage 1 and 2 winner here. The driver of the number 91 is Jaden Porter. Jaden, you got us?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, it's your debut race in this series. You were able to join last minute earlier today, and at none other than Dover Motor Speedway, a track you have plenty of success at in other leagues. Talk us through this first 2 stages.
Yeah, I think I won the first stage based off the tires. I'm really surprised more people didn't try and take it to set there. But the second stage was a full-on battle. That battle was so much fun. Racing with like 5 different people for the race lead at Dover is pretty crazy. But yeah, I've had a lot of fun for my debut race.
And obviously now it's the run to the end of the race. It'll be just under 100 laps to go. Very tight on fuel if it were to go green flag the entire way through. So what's your strategy for this third and final stage, especially considering you're down a set of tires to most of the field?
I think it's the same as the both stages. I try to keep track position, save my tires a lot better than I did last run. I've never driven the next gen at Dover and it be actually like loose. When we came here in 4 wide, it was a plow box. This time it's like actually like the car is actually rotating and it's loose, so it's pretty different than what I'm used to here. But kind of the same strategy as the first 2 stages. Just try to stay out front and hopefully we make it on field if it goes green all the way.
Well, appreciate you taking the time with us, Jaden, as we're getting ready to go green, and good luck in this final stage.
All right, thank you.
So that's Jaden Porter, winner of both stages tonight in unprecedented fashion. This time, the way he was able to do it, Francisco didn't give up despite the constant pressure, and even despite falling back as far as 4th place in that running order, stays in it, and he will lead this field back to green flag racing at lap 105. Points are dealt. Now it's time for the playoff spot at stake. Green flag waves, bit of a bobble from the inside group, but Porter leads them clear back to turn 1.
And let's see if this final stage does go green. If they are able to make it on fuel, that is an extremely tight gap, even with the 100% fuel, to go almost 100 laps on the 1 tank of gas. So we'll see if that's on the minds of everybody. But we also know how the Monster Mile can get crazy. So at some point that caution flag could wave. It's just a matter of when. And we see right now Porter holding on to the top position, Steven Stempien in second, and Lawson Peel third. And this is the trio we were really expecting to see competing for these top positions. Stempien will charge up the inside on Porter. Porter not going to fight that one too hard right now as Peel looks for the crossover to the 91. He'll get to the inside as a little bit further back is Ross Harlow down in 4th, but Peel and Stempien clear for the top 2 positions. Porter taking it easy right now.
Porter will nurse those tires to start. Peel will take advantage, and so will Stempien, who will grab the race lead for the proper first time tonight. We saw Moreno lead a bunch of the race to start. Mascarella stole it easily, while Stempien perhaps looked once or twice, but backed out as soon as the 3rd attempt came up to him. Then nearly got the race lead at the end of stage number 2 in the firework picturesque setting that was the run to the finish at the end between those 4 or 5 drivers. And now Stempien will take control despite not getting the stage points that he probably desired through the 1st and 2nd. I mean, he did get points well enough to get him comfortably above that playoff cut line, and that's probably what matters a lot to him. But Francisco, the other thing that matters is a race victory. And Stempien, you think about it, the most consistent driver of the season, if you're not talking the man underneath him right now, in Lawson Peel. Finished in 20th back in New Hampshire with the bad race that befell him and all of the terrible luck that he encountered over that race. But before then, 4 consecutive top 10 finishes and only 1 outside of the top 10 to start the first 5 to 6 races. It was 11th back at the virtual Daytona International Speedway, and then back at Talladega, won both stages. And despite the crash later on through, was able to slightly recover, but you'll have to watch as the 9 car of Lawson Peel takes the lead for the first time tonight.
Feels weird saying that in stage 3, but Lawson Peel finally finds himself at the head of the field, has gotten by both Steven Stempien and Jaden Porter, and there's teammate of Porter, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, down in the 13th spot. Just behind him is the 19 of Brad Fulham, and Chris Gaveau battling for the 14th spot. It's been a struggle for Moreno after the initial run of the race. Lost the track position on the main strategy as the other guys on an alternative strategy made that big headway. But in that second stage, never really made some positions. Might have had a pit road penalty on the stage 2 break because he restarted, I believe, down in 18th or so on the longest line, and now he finds himself trying to pass that 28 for P12. So we'll see what Moreno's able to do in this final stage, if he's able to charge his way back up through the top 10, but the 87 trying to recover.
You know, even though, Francisco, we saw Moreno strong to start, it was in the clean air. As soon as he hopped into the turbulent air, the Red Bull Chevrolet has not been the same. And although he's climbing through 12th now, you know, it's been a bit of an underwhelming performance through the second and now third stage here for Moreno. And despite the early race success and all of the speed he harnessed, he sort of let the field go away about 0.4 of a second in those first several laps and let Muscarella and the gang catch up. And ever since, Moreno has not seen the light of day inside the top 5, and both stages missing out on at least one or more potential points to his early season tally in his debut tonight from Dover. And while his teammate Porter has swept both, now Porter sits into third, and we'll keep an eye on that Red Bull Chevrolet, whether Moreno ends up getting some sort of regained momentum. We'll take a look at the DNF list as we stand. 3 cars on that list. 89 laps down is Jason Hastings. We saw him in one of our opening cautions of the race. Hit hard to the outside wall, got the toe link damaged enough to take him out. James Kunkel and Justin Hendry appear to be on pit road to follow. One surprise, Francisco, is Stephen Harlow. Strong car to begin. And on the right side of your screen, the 11 car is trapped on pit lane 12 and now 13 laps down.
Yeah, this is not one I saw any problems with the 11 car. I have no idea what may have caused the 11 car to sit in the pit road right now. Alongside him is also the 82 of Eric Stewart. There's actually the 11 firing off right now, so maybe some toe link damage on the 11. He now finds himself 14 laps down as the leaders are going by him now, because you look at the car, there's no real body damage that I'm able to see on the 11, so curious as to what caused him to go 14 laps down in this one, because that car looks pretty clean.
And perhaps some connectivity issues for the 11 car of Harlow, who had a very strong race last week at Talladega Superspeedway, was a part at fault for the spinning Steven Stempien car fresh off of the stage 2 restart, but that 11 car was so fast and took several laps up front as he would try to pick himself back up, gain some of those laps back over this last stage, and just survive for at least an overall finish in this race, even though it's not what he had anticipated. And Steven, from a couple of weeks back, from the All-Star break, is repping a paint scheme that he will stay with for the foreseeable future, and perhaps it will stay for the rest of this 2025 season. And on the car is a very special message and a very special sponsor, Project Hopner, which is based in his hometown of Heinsberg, Vermont. The scheme is a tribute to Sue Hopner, who passed away recently. Harlow says that Sue was one of the greatest examples of all the great things love and compassion can do. And Project Hopner is an organization that tries to raise awareness on teen suicide and to try to find some hope for anyone struggling with mental health in that age range. So a very special scheme for Stephen Harlow, one that means a lot to him, heartfelt. And to the Hopner family, of course, our thoughts and prayers to them as they deal with this time, with Sue's passing, and a very rough time for them as well. So each and every race we'll try and highlight that Project Hopner Chevrolet. Right now, Harlow trying to play a bit of catch-up. Meanwhile, Stempien has reignited the battle for the lead to turn 3 on Lawson Peel.
Trying to make that bottom work, and he's got the nose out in front, so it actually could stand a chance here for Stempien here off the corner. Peel gets tight off the corner, had to check up off the bottom, and that gives Steven Stempien the clean air for the first time this evening. He was always second to somebody at some point in the runs tonight, but now number 88 finds himself at the head of the field.
And one thing he wants to do is complete the last bit of strategy, to which we haven't seen much of tonight, Francisco. The only real curveball we were thrown was that pit stop from Porter and company back in the early segment of this race at around lap 25 to 27. And that's what helped Porter get to the front and win stage number 1. But second stage, it was all about raw track position and what was going down on the racetrack. The field did not separate through the top 5. We did not see any strategy played at all, with no yellows in that second stint. So it left everybody with that consensus call to come all together down pit road by the time that second stage concluded at lap 100. What do you see differently occur here, Francisco, here in the final stage, now knowing that probably for the first time for maybe 85, 87% of this field, they got to lock in a strategy at some point?
Well, it's the final stage, and it's really close on fuel if it were to go green, and I think most of the drivers feel that it has a good chance of going green as Schaefer gets loose there on the bottom of the 48, And with that good chance of it going green, you want to be able to make sure you can go all the way on fuel and tires. You have the risk of going 2 laps down by pitting under green here due to just how slow the pit road speed is here. And you don't want to have to make a green flag pit stop. It is arguably the most difficult pit road entry to get into, and that could ruin your race. So everybody going to try to avoid to get into that situation, and by doing that, save fuel, save tires, and really make this about the long run. Keep everything under you, and you should be fine. Looking a little bit further up ahead, it looks like Lawson Pio, at least in the early portion of the run, attacked a little bit too much. The 91 is slowly starting to close into him as he loses time to Steven Stempian. So Porter and Horace Harlow could try to battle with the number 9 Napa Auto Parts Chevrolet. Looking a little bit further back, Ethan Fonseca Moreno has done a good job of working his way through the field. He finds himself up into P9, just behind that group there of Drinking Bros Racing cars of Eric Schaefer and Brandon Banks, with the 87 slowly climbing his way through the top 10.
A race high of 9th after a bit of trudging through the top 15. We get a look with the 3-car of Eric Schaefer. Got his best finish since his win at Phoenix. Last week at Talladega, pushed his teammate Craig Parks to the victory in those final 2 laps at overtime. And at any moment, we could have thought that Schaefer would look to the inside or outside, ditch his teammate, and go for the win himself, but wanted to spread the wealth for the Drinkin' Bros Racing camp and helped Craig get his first career Droppin the Hammah Cup Series win and first win with this specific group of guys. So a lending hand for Schaefer, now this time having to battle a bit of adversity to start starting this race in the top 5. Despite so, Schaefer has dropped as low as 24th in this race, but he's slowly recovered, and the Virginia native will try a peek on for 6th place where Alex Muscarella sits. And on that point that you brought up, Francisco, about what Jaden Porter's doing here, starting to put in a little more effort on catching up to Lawson Peel and filling more of that rear view mirror. I mean, this would be the part of the run to which Porter starts to come back to life. We saw him basically give the top 2 drivers now a red carpet run to the front of the field. Didn't really offer that much resistance in the battle for the top spot. And now, given that the top 2 have burned their tires a little bit, fighting each other over the course of the run, this is where Porter can start to shine. Driver who's already swept both stages in his first ever DTH Cup Series race will try to become the driver to get his first win in his debut.
Yeah, it's not by much, either the difference that you'd find it to be right now. So he's still probably not pushing the car necessarily, but definitely more so trying to put the pressure on just to see if they fold or make a mistake and give him the position without having to really work for it. But on some unfortunate somber news, Kenneth, I just found out a couple minutes ago that the owner of Hattori Enterprises, I might mispronounce his name, Shigeaki Hattori, has passed away at the age of 61. An unfortunate news in the NASCAR community.
Yeah, that's tough for the Hattori family, and we wish them the best. That's shocking news. Probably did not expect that to come out while we were in the middle of this race. Thoughts and prayers with their family. One of the key NASCAR team owners, especially on the lower end divisions of NASCAR racing through the Craftsman Truck Series and even a bit of the Xfinity Series as well. So our thoughts and prayers with them, and hopefully you will send yours as well. We'll focus back on the battle for P6. This is between Alex Muscarella and Eric Schaefer, 2 drivers who were up front early in this race. Muscarella has seemingly plateaued a bit, but 48 car who's got that Jimmy Johnson 2007, 2000 to 2009.
I think you would know.
Yeah, I believe 2007 was the first year of that Cobalt scheme, perhaps 2006. But that Lowe's Cobalt scheme, very successful in the days of Jimmy Johnson's career at the height of his 5 consecutive NASCAR Cup Series championships. Muscarella ran this scheme last week at Talladega to throw it back to a very specific moment in NASCAR history. It was our throwback race at the 2.66 mile super speedway. And so Muscarella thinks this car is pretty good. I'm going to keep it on me for another race, perhaps the rest of the season. Up the road, though, he's got a good look at what's happening for 4th place. Driver who seemingly was the favorite for Stage 2, Francisco Ross Harlow, has settled in 4th, and he's got Warren Kyle Heath all over him.
Yeah, these two have not left each other's sights here in this 3rd stage so far. Warren Kyle Keith has had a good view of the back of his car, trying to see if he can make a move, and further up ahead at the same time, Jaden Porter now gets the inside of Lawson Peel for P2. So these two have finally caught the same part of the racetrack. Porter is making the bottom work, not to his avail to make the pass. As they go back to turns 1 and 2, see Peel just how high on the racetrack he goes. Went too high there. 91 will clear him for 2.
almost looked like the same line that Porter was using to find his way around Harlow. Nearly got into the marbles there. That safer barrier, not a place where you usually find speed here at Dover, but nonetheless, Porter makes the move to the inside. Peel will reset, but the best bit of news, Francisco, is the gap he's got back to 4th place, something that everyone was probably wishing for at the front of the field when Stage 2 kicked off, and it never seemingly happened, to which the field spread apart quite a bit, but finally Peel has some elbow room to work with, about a 2nd and a 10th back to Warren Kyle Keith, who finally overcomes that 4th place battle against Ross Harlow, wins the auction, and back in the background, 7th place, Brandon Banks looking under Alex Mascarella. What a save off turn 4.
And there's Moreno showing up to the party, trying to take the position. He'll take the Mascarella for P8, and now trying to look to the inside of Banks for possibly P7. What a moment there by the 48 as Cedric Hunter now slides in through 9th.
Yeah, dropped off several positions. The hemorrhaging stops, and he settles into 10th. Now working into 9th is Cedric Hunter, a name that we really didn't bring up too much at Talladega last week. Ended up with a solid finish, ended up 13th. And the man who became the first driver this season to sweep both stages in a race did not end up taking the checkered flag. But Hunter has been relatively quick. Him and his teammate Hall, like we've harped on throughout the season, have been one of the standout teams. Category 5 Esports has never let up, but given the performance of KBueno Racing tonight, there may be another challenger in the cards as Jaden Porter creeps in 24.199, a 10th faster than the race leader.
Yeah, this is the part of the run where those tires will really start to show their difference if they save them. And Jaden Porter's done a great job of keeping his tires just all that much better underneath his race cars. They've both put a gap on Lawson Peel now, and this will be a sole 2-car battle for the top position for the next couple laps.
And Peel, yeah, you're right. He has sort of fallen back. So through this last stage, it's all about wondering when pit road will get to these drivers and who makes that call first. And it appears this race is going green, Francisco, but yeah, it's a big if on whether strategy is going to kick in, because we're closing in on 50 laps to go, and I don't even know at that point of the race if you're willing to give up the track position to wait for the field to cycle out over that run.
It's a big if they're able to go all the way, and that's really what's going to make or break that strategy call decision is, can they go the rest of the way on fuel? Is the caution going to come out and trap you a lap, maybe 2 laps down? There's so many things going on through these drivers' head than more than just the decision of putting fresh tires on. And even if you did bring it down pit road to put in minuscule fuel, it wouldn't surprise me if drivers did 2 tires or even a splash of fuel from just how little time you actually have to sit in the stall compared to 4 tires. So still plenty of things to happen, and I think everybody's going to try and just wait it out as long as possible to make sure that they don't play their cards too early, show their hand, and get dealt the wrong one, as Stempian getting loose off these corners is starting to feel the pressure of Jaden Porter.
Finally, we've got another battle for the lead. It took a little while, and I think the racing gods, Francisco, were telling us to relax a little bit after stage number 2. Let the battle for the lead simmer quite a bit, but the fire's back on. Jaden Porter creeps to the rear bumper, back to the outside. He'll try to look on the 88 Chevrolet off of turn number 4. It may work for the Kentucky native.
Oh, there's the crossover.
And it does. Peak down low, and the 91 car looks for the lead again.
And you see, he's going to have to try and make that bottom work, but the tires are in a better condition, so he might stand a better chance than most drivers would. You see, he actually loses the position there on the inside. He'll charge it back once again, enters a little bit more towards the middle to still get an angle off of the corner, but Stempian just charges through on the outside, able to hang on for now.
And what a defensive stance by Steven Stempian. Maybe learning a bit from what Ross Harlow did back in stage 2. Just stayed in the middle lane until eventually Porter's attempt ended up working, and it was a phenomenal pass for the lead in the way that Porter was able to execute it. And now Stempian looks up high, trying to deal with some more dirty air to car number 91. Porter doesn't flinch. He looks down to the inside. But you got to worry a bit, Francisco, because, yes, you know, tires are wary right now. Drivers are being very careful with these race cars. And Porter is fast enough to beat Stempian for the race lead. Problem is, you're 1.2 seconds back from a Jaws theme playing in your ear. Lawson Peel resides in 3rd. Any bit of wasted momentum from these top 2 can bring the 9 car in, and just like we saw at the tail end of the 2nd stage, we saw a 3-car battle balloon to 5. It may be 3 or 4 cars should we see these top 2 slow each other down further.
Yeah, but Lawson Peel, he's continuing to lose time to the front too, and he's actually getting ran down a little bit by Warren Kyle Keith for the 4th from the 4th position to battle for P3. And Porter's not quite giving up yet. I think he's still trying to mount some pressure on Stempien. You can see he's not too eager on trying to make the pass done right now. We saw that in the battle. He was hoping to get it done, but he wasn't going to be too eager about it, as we still have had over 50 laps to go in the moment. They'll take it 50 at the line this time. So Porter, obviously patient, still knows that there's plenty of time left in this race and that they're both pulling away from P3. So he gets a great run through the center, gets Stempien loose once again. So Jaden Porter, this is exactly the kind of trick he's trying to play, is trying to put the pressure, make the 88 get into a mistake as he almost gets into his rear bumper.
Hey, got the chrome hone working there, right on the back bumper of Stempien Chevrolet, but it's all for naught. Porter will fall back and give up at least a tenth or two to the race leader, and here comes Stempien. Look down pit road with 50 to go.
Oh, he hit the barrier.
He's into the barrels. I think his car is okay, but Stempien finds a mistake on the brakes as he becomes one of the first on the lead lap to come down.
We'll see if anybody else follows him due to that. He got the peril with his right front tire. You see it there. Let's see if we can get the onboard. Yeah, he got it with the right front tire. That might be some suspension damage to the 88. You see Porter and most of the lead lap cars do not follow into the pit lane, and that could be due to the mistake by the 88, as Stempien is still sitting in the pits in the pit lane right now.
Don't know how much lost time that is for the 88 car, nor how much damage is assessed. Stempien is bringing up the jacks, but his pit stop at the moment sits at over 15 seconds, which is well over a routine pit stop, probably at about 14 and a half to 15 seconds with 4 fresh tires and fuel. So this race may be over contention-wise for one of the best cars in this.
Oh, the Young Austin's out! Big crash on the front straightaway!
And there is trouble, several cars in it, and Cedric Hunter appears to be the man in trouble.
Ethan Fonseca
Moreno may have had a piece of it.
Looks like the crash happened in front of them. I believe Eric Schaefer was at the site of where this accident occurred. Him and Cedric Hunter were battling for position. Looks like Schaefer comes off the top of the racetrack, gets into the right rear of the 45, and sends the 45 spinning, and the 11 and the 87 have nowhere to go.
And the 87 just slid into that. Good avoidance by Stephen Harlow to the inside of the racetrack, but Moreno finds himself with the unlucky side of it all. Onboard look from the Red Bull 87 car, and you'll see these two tangle off of the 4th corner, and it's really where Schaefer comes down near the outside wall that gets Hunter for the spill. And car number 11 up the road, that's Stephen Harlow, thankfully gets away from it in those final moments. Well, yeah, Moreno with nowhere to go. Basically full throttles that. I mean, doesn't full throttle it, but basically gets in with a high rate of speed. And unfortunately, things may be over for the pole sitter tonight. Here comes Jaden Porter bringing the lead lap cars on pit road.
And it's going to be a battle between him and Lawson Peel once again. Plenty of times those two have battled each other. As Lawson Peel pulls into his pit stall, it'll be about 40 laps to go. Porter gets into his stall nice and clean. And that's going to hurt the 88 of Steven Stempien. He is 2 laps down in this race, and as they now work their way off the pit lane, Lawson Peel's up and away, almost makes contact with Chris Gabot, and Peel gets out ahead of the 91.
And we'll see if anyone beats him out of pit road from here, but the answer will be no. Lawson Peel steals the lead off of pit lane in a 3-wide fight, and
Peel sped!
Has sped.
And I think I saw exactly... I think I saw exactly where it happened, Kenneth. He's been doing this all night long, and it eventually was just too much trying to race for the win. These guys, they're able to accelerate over the speed limit as you exit your stall. We'll try and get a look at it on the right side of the screen. There's Peel with the left sides up. You speed over the speed limit and then slow back down to try and gain an advantage right there. Look how much faster in the 25 he goes. Look how much he braked. Just too much.
Yeah, has to roll the car down. And here's some more takers. Stephen Harlow, Chris Progar. We're several laps down before the yellow came out. And you know, in all of our talk about what could happen for a final pit stop in this race under green, Steven Stempien kicks off the round with a mistake into the pit barrels, and then the yellow flies shortly after. Stempien's race for the lead lap is over for now, but still a long way to go with Jaden Porter up front. And boy, so many things happen there. At around the same time, Francisco, you have Stempien's mistake on pit road, nearly speeding and then getting into the barrels. Then the crash with Cedric Hunter and Eric Schaefer and Ethan Fonseca Moreno. And then just when you think Lawson Peel has the lead off pit road, he gives it all away. Short-term game and a long-term loss. Peel will drop back to 13th at the restart.
And there's been so much attrition in this race, you wouldn't have thought of it just because of how much green flag action we have had in this one. But Ethan Fonseca is getting some significant damage repair time. He's still in 18th, so a top 20 result is on the cards for the 87 despite the big damage on his race car. Richard Modric is out there, first car one lap down in 17th with 16 cars on the lead lap. Lawson Peel is going to be at the tail end of it with his penalty down in the actual 14th position. So let's see what happens. 43 laps to go.
And the guy who swept both stages will look to remain in control. Jaden Porter and Warren Kyle Keith will see the green flag, and Porter spins the rear tires. He's down to the apron. Warren Kyle Keith takes the race lead to turn 1. What is going on at Dover?
The contenders have all had issues in the last couple of laps. Jaden Porter, big crash, turn 2.
Kip Easley, Chris Cabot, and others involved. Off the second corner, yellow flag out almost instantaneously. There's Brad Fulham trapped at the bottom of the raceway. Kip Easley was the first spinner I saw in turns 1 and 2, and he catches Chris Cabot with him. Not as much damage to the Cheddar's car, but to the other 2 Toyotas. Game over.
Unreal restart by Jaden Porter as the race leader to spin the tires and cost himself all those positions, but then also, in a way, gets a lucky break with the contact from Brad Fulham and Kip Easley to send them spinning and collecting multiple other race cars, not including himself, to bring out the caution flag. As here's the replay after Porter recovers it. There's the 19 and the 8. Some minor contact sends the 8 around in front of the 19. Unfortunately, there's Justin Erb and Alex Muscarella getting a huge piece of it, as nearly Chris Progar gets a piece of it as well.
And Stephen Harlow got the end of it as he tagged Brad Fulham going into the corner. We'll see if we can get another look at it this time from Eric Schaefer's perspective. Car number 3 gets a good look at how all of this develops. The first of all moment of Jaden Porter whiffing up the rear tires on the restart. He gets things back going, and then Porter will dodge this wreck to the inside. So will Schaefer, but it's that close. Oh my.
Yeah, that's a lucky break for both Jaden Porter and Lawson Peel, who now finds himself up until 11th after his pit road speeding penalty. But how about some shout-outs here? Brandon Banks finds himself up into 2nd. Justin Erb finds himself in 4th. And Richard Swavely inside the top 5. How about these unlikely runs forming late in this one?
And look behind Swavely. That's Casey Nining, car number 28 for the D Legacy Motor Club group. So some great stuff for these drivers who have been calm throughout the race but haven't found themselves in the spotlight yet. This part of the race, 40 laps to go inside, could be the chance for them to shine. Justin Erb led some laps at Talladega, very fast number 20 car, and we talk about throwbacks. Justin Erb basically a long-term throwback with his Home Depot Chevrolet, shades of Tony Stewart back in the early 2000s, and he will restart from P4. And what an odd set of circumstances to shake up this race. Jaden Porter, who lit up the tires off the restart, will try and get to the green flag from 7th. Meanwhile, for Steven Stempian, this race has gone sour in a very quick hurry. Stempian already 6 laps down. We'll see if we can get a moment to talk with the driver of the number 88 as we are nearly getting back to green flag action. Steven, you got a copy with us?
Oh, sadly I do.
Well, Steven, I know it's a tough ending to this race. Given the circumstance, just tell us how it all happened and what did you see as you were entering pit road coming to 50 laps to go?
Well, I was just making sure I wasn't gonna... I don't even know. I really don't know. I just was trying to make sure Jaden had pretty clean exit in the middle of the turn there. Just didn't want him getting into me and overshot it. And I was going to pit at lap 50, and then I waited, and it's the story of my season this year.
Well, you know it's been tough, Steven, and hopefully things rebound in the next race of the campaign, but until then, maybe some cheering on to the DTH teammates. Harlow and some of your teammates got some good looks, so hopefully they do well, and hopefully you can rebound in tonight's event.
Yeah, team really showed up tonight, so hopefully one of us will get a win. So.
That is Steven Stempian, fresh off of the Most recent incident into the pit road barrels. Green flag restart, and this time less theatrics. Francisco back to turn 1. Warren Kyle Keith headway by about 2 car lengths. Brandon Banks and Justin Erb and Ross Harlow will make it a 3-way fight for second. Banks escapes. He'll look for the lead this time, entering turn 3.
Yeah, this time a lot cleaner of a restart overall as Jaden Porter now climbs his way up into P5. Actually tries to look to the outside of Harlow for P4. Nearly gets into his back bumper, so good recovery by Porter so far. As he actually gets to the outside of the 16 now in turn 2, will try to carry that momentum down the back straightaway as Warren Kyle Keith finds himself up in the lead, but Brandon Banks in tow.
And Lawson Peel, who we saw speed on pit road the last time everyone was there, recovers to 8th. Saw that accident happen not too far from now, and he's been able to slowly work up through the field, so he escapes along with his teammate Schaefer. They run 7th and 8th, and the first time we see Brandon Banks at the head of this field. He's getting a run on Keith, doesn't use it though, back to turn 3. And we saw Banks shoot out of a cannon in those final laps at Chicagoland Speedway, a race that did end in overtime, and saw Banks hold off some of the best drivers. That includes his teammate in Lawson. So Banks could get a second win at Dover within the last 3 or so years when you think of DTH and Sunoco Cup competition. And here slings over Banks. Inside look, and he's got the lead in turn 3.
And how about Jaden Porter with a big move to the outside of Justin Erb. Erb has to check up as he nearly gets into the 91 and looks to the inside.
What a move from Porter. Got the outside on the Home Depot Chevrolet and filled the hole to get to the inside. Porter to second.
What a move by Jaden Porter, using the outside to go to the inside to get up to second.
And the Acceptance Insurance Chevrolet, who has seen a ton of this race up in the front, now has to play catch-up again. Third time's a charm for Porter. He's been the fastest car of the night thus far. And with that most recent pit stop, Francisco, we are not expecting another one for the rest of this race. So should we see this one go down to a green flag stretch, keep an eye on car 91.
If there's an overtime restart, we could see some pit stops. We saw just how much of a tire difference in stage 1 that was to be the case, and we know Porter still has at least 1 left in his stall, so if there's a caution in these last 33 or so laps of this race, they could be crucial depending when it comes out.
I saw him be at least a 10th faster than the race leader at the time in the beginning of this third stage in Steven Stempian, and the gap was like that after about 15 to 20-ish laps. You could argue whether Porter is pushing his car a little more now that he's got second place and he wants the lead in clean air now, but he's going to have to wait a little longer, still within 0.2 of a second from your race leader. Not too far behind is Warren Kyle Keith, and then the battles persist from 6 on back. Here's a look at the battle for P6. Ross Harlow on the inside of Lawson Peel. And those two who went toe-to-toe at the tail end of the second stage, now trying to figure out where they will be for the final stint of this race, should a yellow not fly. And it's a race-high 4th for Justin Erb, the silver and orange Home Depot Chevrolet, who will occupy the top 5 for the first time all night long. And Erb's mission statement at this point, Francisco, is keep his placement. He's worked hard to get up here, and the West Allis, Wisconsin native for TOW Racing will try and nab another solid finish for 2025.
And looking up further ahead, Jaden Porter continues to close the gap in for the top position. He's now 0.2 off of the race leader, basically just a couple of car lengths off, so we could have a battle for the lead here inside 30 laps to go.
And Erb finished P6 at Talladega. Now he'll look at Eric Schaefer, dials up the bottom shelf to the inside, and the uphill climb to 1 and 2. Successful for car number 3. He'll try and take over and move forward, get to this top 3 as soon as possible. But Joe Erb will try and fight back, and Drinkin' Bros Racing can find themselves at the top again. And for Brandon Banks, I mean, what a race it's been, Francisco. The way we haven't seen Banks run well as much tonight. His first laps led coming now at the tail end of this race after starting P21. And you look at a gain of 20 over the course of tonight. It's impressive the way Banks has been able to duck out of the way for trouble and now is shining when it matters most.
And much like Chicagoland, that's exactly how that race went for him, and when he was able to take the checkered flag. He's going to have at least a challenge in these last couple laps at the hands of Jaden Porter and Warren Kyle Keith, as Lawson Peel trying to see if he can find his way up inside the top 5, has to get by Eric Schaefer to get to P4 before he can think about challenging for the top spot.
Charlie Bauer Photography onboard camera with the 5 car of Brandon Banks. Had a very good Terry Labonte throwback last week at Talladega, back to the usual Kyle Larson, paulscars.com colors. As he eyes down Jaden Porter. These two know how to race against each other, Francisco. They see each other every Wednesday, and they know what it's like. They know the types of drivers that each other are, and that means we may see some hefty competition between those two by the time this race is over. Jaden was still within 0.3 of a second, and that last time by about 1/100th of a second faster.
Minuscule margins right now, and I think Porter has to make sure he keeps it into the back of his mind that he has to save a little bit of tires to have something to battle with Banks. Right now, being 0.3 back, he's not doing anything if he pushes the car right now. So the best he can hope for is save the tires a little bit and try to use it to have one last push inside the final 10 or 15.
Well, Francisco, I'm going to ask you this, because we could find ourselves into overtime for the second straight week, like we did at Talladega. And, you know, any time could arise for trouble here at Dover Motor Speedway, given what we've seen already. And I think after our last restart, things really got intense with the speeding penalties, with the crashes, with the pit road mistake from Stempian. You've won a league race here at Dover, and it came in that fashion through those final laps where you had to make a last-ditch move in those final corners. Do you have any advice for Porter here through these final 25 and less?
Well, he's better than me here, so he doesn't need my advice. He knows what he's doing behind the wheel of his race car, and as long as he keeps the tires under him and he's starting to put some better lap times down than Brandon Banks was, nearly a whole 10th quicker on that most recent lap. As long as he stays in the clean air, saves the tires under him for the final 20, he knows what he's doing and he knows what he has to do to get the top spot.
Well, if you were to give him advice, what would it be?
Don't crash it. That's my wallet that's at stake.
All the money dripping into the BBR account, potentially for a win. I mean, through those stage wins, 91 car really fast. Porter is still creeping. He's with a chance at getting underneath Brandon Banks. This is the closest he's been throughout this run. Now within a car length, his last lap about a little less than a 10th faster than the 5 machine coming out of turn 4. And so Porter will continue to hound on the 5 and make him pop out a mistake at some point. They have left Warren Kyle Keith in the dust a bit. Not sure if there are some mistakes coming out from the St. Augustine, Florida native, but the Discount Tire employee will sit back in third, watch this battle develop and manifest. Here's Porter going up the outside. He wants to run off of the final corner, and he may just get it to turn 1. He's not there now, but he'll try it nonetheless. Back to turn 1, and it's still within a car length.
Oh, but Banks drifts up. This could give Porter an opportunity. Porter's not interested in making the bottom work. He wants to drive up to the outside, or at the very least get it big enough front to ensure that he can drive it in deep and clear the 5 in the corner. You see Porter continue to try to make that outside work the best that he can, and Banks is trying to defend it as best as he can. Here goes Porter to the bottom.
Porter down to the inside. He wants to lead again. Does Banks give him the chance at clearing off of turn 2? Yes, but maybe not for long. Banks looking at the crossover down the back straightaway, and it will not work. Jaden Porter takes the race lead with 17 laps to go.
And that was good patience by Porter. He knew eventually it was going to work out in his favor and was being patient on using the bottom and eventually got the good enough run to take away the top position. And that all started in 3 and 4s. Let's see if we can get another look at it.
And so here's the developmental pass from Porter. It works the outside, and that's where he's been able to find that magic. He goes at least a couple of lanes up, maybe 3 or 4 lanes up the racetrack in that usual groove. Looks for the runoff, turn 4, dives to the bottom, and Banks tried to play defense there in the middle, but washed him a bit too high. And he wanted to run off turn 2 as well, just to execute a crossover. But nonetheless, Porter stays put. The momentum not enough for the 5 car. And so Jaden Porter will take the race lead and will try to be flawless tonight. It's allowed Warren Kyle Keith, though, to step back into the group. So we may end up having a tussle for second before this is all said and done, Francisco. And mirroring in the background, Lawson Peel, the 9 car, still put in 4th.
Has not made as much inroads as you'd expect him to make overall for the race lead, but he is kind of maintaining really with 2nd and 3rd at this point in the run with 14 laps to go and they come across the line. I think Lawson Peel, as far as hoping to try and capture his 4th win, he might need the yellow flag to wave again.
He's got a really fast car, and he's been able to beat Ross Harlow, who has sort of settled nicely into 5th. He's potentially in the fight with that Toyota Camry behind him of Zachary Hall, one of the overachievers through 2025 in that Category 5 Esports number 23. Him and his teammate Hunter have stunned a ton over the first several races of the campaign, and it's tapered off a little bit by the beginning of the second half of this regular season. And you think about, Francisco, the schedule from the beginning to this second half, it gets a little harder when you're down in this second group where the drivers are a little more acclimated to the competition they have around them. And I mean, look at the tracks we have. We started with the super speedway at Dega. We're tonight here at Dover. We got to go to Michigan in a 2-mile D-shaped oval where feels like a super speedway as Kevin Roy went sideways right in front of Ross Harlow and he saves it.
Good save by the 77 there as he's able to try to limp it back around. No caution flag in this particular instance as the battle for P2 is heating up as Warren O'Keefe has chased down Brandon Banks. We'll see what kind of a move he looks to make. Has been working that outside, and he has also been running some better lap times than Jaden Porter. If he's able to get by this 5 car, could the 78 challenge for the win?
Yeah, he was about 3/100ths of a second faster than Porter when they last crossed the start-finish line. And even then, a bit faster than the second-place car of Brandon Banks. And sitting back and forth, Lawson Peel, not too shabby himself, 24-1, so he's equaling the pace of your front 3. And so this race with 10 to go may not just be over, especially if there's some more drama to find us here in these final few. Here's Keith with a look to the inside, big run. Won't use it there entering turn 3. And for the moment, Francisco, this may just be the best run that we've seen from WKK this season, given the bad luck that he's found despite starting up front. And the Denny Hamlin throwback is at work, cutting his teeth to 8 laps to go.
And trying to see if he learned from Jaden Porter on how to make this move on Brandon Banks. You see the big run he gets off the top side will give the bump to the 5 going into turn 3. Just playing it patient, trying to see if he could use the outside to make this move.
He's only had 2 top 10 finishes this year. Best of 5th at Road America, and he would have had 3rd, or maybe even 2nd. He made some mistakes in that final stint.
Oh, Justin Erm nearly spins on the inside. What a save by the 20 to maintain P8.
Maybe a second look at it, but that was a quick fight with Richard Swavely. And that was with Eric Schaefer that things got hectic around 7th. Erb with a wonderful save, but gets a piece of that inside wall. Thankfully, we stay green with 8 to go. But this is the part of the race, Francisco, where things are clean and green for someone to find trouble. I mean, these tires are screaming for grip at this juncture of the race. The last thing Porter wants to see is a yellow right now, given the advantage he has. But from the trends we've seen tonight, one caution changes the entire pace. And you could be the race leader, find yourself in bad luck once, and your race is over.
At least we know if the caution flag comes out, the consensus is going to be come down pit road and get brand new tires, because these tires have really worn out for almost everybody, especially for Brandon Banks, who's continuing to drift back nearly 1 second behind your race leader, as Warren Keith has still not managed to get by him. You see him trying to load up that crossover attempt, gets a pretty good run. He'll probably try to go to the bottom, but you see him just not willing to make that bottom side be an option. He'll push Banks into the corner, and basically yo-yoing effect going on here with the 5 and the 78, since the 78 of Warren Keith does not want to use the bottom.
Some great points at stake, though, between these two, despite, the toughness of this battle. I mean, Warren Keith is set to finish his best race tonight. He hasn't finished better than 5th in 2025. If he gets on the podium this evening, not only do we talk to him on our post-race coverage on the KBueno Racing Network, but he will also enjoy the fruits of his labor to get onto the podium at a track this hard to drive. And with the race has gone his way, he could be able to enjoy what he's been working hard for. Brandon Banks hasn't had a better finish than 2nd since his race victory at Chicagoland Speedway. So 2nd or 3rd could be some solid points for car number 5. And with 3 to go, 2 to go next time, if a yellow does not fly, the win is not in the cards. They are more than 1.2 seconds back of this man right here, Jaden Porter, who looks to sail off into the sunset for his first career victory.
Yeah, Jaden Porter's starting to lay the hammer down, putting in some really good lap times, multiple tenths of a second quicker than everybody else. That just goes to show the pace he had as soon as he got into the clean air to really start to build himself a gap and not have to worry about everybody behind him. The battle for P5 or P4 is really heating up with Lawson Peel, the 16 of Ross Harlow, and Zachary Hall. 3-car battle for the 4th spot as Lawson Peel has really trailed off in this run. But up front, it's the 91 of Jaden Porter who takes the white flag, looking for yet another win at the Dover Motor Speedway.
Lawson Peel holding off the competition for 4th. Harlow's to the inside. But in Jaden Porter's first ever Droppin the Hammah Cup Series start, he will be picture perfect from the Monster Mile. 2 stage wins, and now the race W in hand. Debut race winner, Jaden Porter. Welcome to victory lane.
Nearly 3 wide for P4, and Ross Harlow, by I kid you not, 5 thousandths of a second will beat Lawson Peel for the P4 position. But you said it, a perfect race for Jaden Porter. Even after the mistake on the restart from the race lead, did an excellent job recovering and getting by everybody to be the first driver this entire season to not only sweep the stages, but to go on to win the race. So Jaden Porter break that streak of sweeping stages and not getting the race win. He'll celebrate a sweep.
And for the first time this year, Jaden Porter will celebrate in Droppin the Hammah victory lane. It's our second race of this revamped Dover Motor Speedway. Let's hope Porter gets to victory lane in enough time. An unbelievable show out in his first ever DTH Cup Series appearance. And through this young season, we haven't seen anybody step up the way that Porter has. We haven't seen anybody make their first starts, mostly because everyone who started the season was at Daytona. But Porter and Moreno came in as surprise drivers for KBueno Racing. And Porter stuns them all, wins the 200-lapper here from Dover Motor Speedway as he will continue his celebrations. And we'll just hope, Francisco, that he enters victory lane because...
Oh, he's going to do it. I think he's trying to bring it in.
You know, earlier we saw Brandon Hawken win in 4 wide here on this revamped Dover to where on iRacing you can go in victory lane. And I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to grant us our wish and enter victory lane. And that 91 car will celebrate even more.
Yes, he's approaching it. It's right up here on his left. He's trying to look for it, and there it goes. He's turning into victory lane.
And in Dover victory lane for the first time, it's Jaden Porter who ends up with the race victory after he leads a bulk of this race and dominates the back half of it in stage number 3. Let's get a look at your full unofficial results here from Dover Motor Speedway. Very long one, and for the second week in a row, we end up not in overtime, but still with another new race winner. Jaden Porter gets the W by 1.5 seconds over Warren Kyle Keith, who gets his best finish of the inaugural season. Brandon Banks ends up with 3rd, first time we see him on the podium in a couple of weeks' time. We'll talk to all 3 of them before our coverage wraps up this evening. Ross Harlow strong all night long and nearly had the stage 2 win. Ends up with 4th. Lawson Peel lost the fight in those waning laps and is 5th at the checkered flag. Zachary Hall, a strong but effective night for car number 23. He is P6, followed by Eric Schaefer, Richard Swavely, Justin Erb, and Casey Knighton through the top 10.
P11 will go to the number 71 of Richard Modric, with Alex Muscarello recovering to P12. Robert A. Moyer Jr. will finish in 13th, with Kip Beasley rounding out lead lap cars in 14th. Kevin Roy was able to save the race car and finish in 15th, with Steven Stempian a heartbreak there on the green flag pit stop attempt. Will finish in 16th, with Chris Krogar in the 17th position. Stephen Harlow will finish in 18th. Brad Fulham will finish in 19th, and Chris Cabot rounds out your top 20.
Back in 21st is the pole sitter Ethan Fonseca Moreno, who got trapped in the mid-pack and then was involved in a sizable accident off of turn number 4. He will end this race 45 laps down. Cedric Hunter, too, was the man involved in that crash that caught Moreno at the end. Hard hit to the inside wall. Gets Hunter out of this race. Eric Stewart, who rolled off shotgun in this field, ends up 23rd, 105 laps down. Parker Bland used alternate strategy to get to the front at the end of stage 1. Good points for her then, but then stage 2 is where things sort of fell apart. Bland found trouble later on, and she ends up in 24th. Hendry, Kunkel, and Jason Hastings find themselves 25th through 27th to bring an end to the field tonight. So that leaves us with a trip to Droppin the Hammah victory lane, where for the first time ever, we see a driver win in his debut in this young season. And Jaden joins us now from Dover. I want to first of all tell you, Jaden, thank you for getting into victory lane, because we saw Brandon not do it in 4 wide a bit earlier when we were here at Dover, but you end up doing it tonight. I don't know if there's a better way to describe this other than pure domination in those final 100 or so. How does it feel, though, to step into this league, make your first appearance, and win the race the way you did?
I felt really good. Sorry, I'm talking to you guys through my phone. My headset actually was dying throughout the last portion of that race, so that was kind of an adventure of a ride there at the end. But yeah, it feels really good to win in my first start. And at Dover, I love Dover so much. Something about these BBR cars on these concrete tracks are just really good. Felt good to pull in the victory lane. I really wanted to do it on 4 wide, but finished second there. So it feels good to get back to victory lane at Dover.
Super strong throughout the entire race. I mean, you sweep both stages and you win the race, something that to this point, until now, has not been done before, even by most of the series regulars, so you accomplish history on that front. But take us through what was going on in stage number 2. I mean, the racing there, unbelievable from our side. I'm sure from your perspective, it was absolutely wild, 1st through 5th, all within at least 3 to 4 tenths of a second. How were you able to stay resilient and find your way around a very strong Ross Harlow to get that stage 2 win?
Yeah, I don't know. Stage 2 was really weird how the cars drove. They were really loose for some reason. And I've never really driven like a loop besides the B car. I've never really driven the next gen here loose. So it was really interesting to see how that run went out. But stage 3, the track definitely tightened up, I think. And that was kind of what back to my advantage here. Driving this next gen car tight here has kind of been good for me. So, yeah, stage 2 is crazy. That battle was insane. I somehow was able to get the second and clear Ross. Ross is doing a great job defending that spot. So, it was fun racing with these guys. I enjoyed the green flag runs and everything. And the stage battles were great. And just happy to get the win.
You know, a couple of days ago in the KBueno Racing server, you and your teammates started discussing the idea of dropping the Hammah and the Cup Series. Steven Stepien basically encouraged you guys, you, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, and soon-to-be-seen Steven Maggio to join this league. You guys get in at the last second, you join the driver roster, you make your debut here tonight, and the way you both stunned, Moreno got the pole, led some laps, you end up winning both stages and winning the race. So what kind of benchmark does that set for what we should expect to see from you guys at the BBR camp as you guys try to complete the rest of this campaign?
Yeah, hopefully we can win a lot of these races. I don't think there's a chance for any of us to make the playoffs. I think there's a minimum start thing that we're not going to meet, but just try to get wins. I feel like it's kind of like my first season in 4 wide when I joined late, and just go out there and go try to win races, make a statement, but also earn respect from these guys. A lot of these guys we've raced with before, a lot of DBR camp, but a lot of these guys I've not really ever really raced before, so just kind of earn their respect. Don't ruin their seasons because they worked hard all year for it, but also race hard and try to go win some races.
Well, tonight it works out for you. First race and first win. You're 100% from the field right now, Mr. Jaden, and you work into the rest of this campaign with a ton of momentum. Before we let you go, anybody that you want to thank for tonight's race?
Yeah, I'd like to thank everyone at KBueno Racing, Ethan, soon to be Steven, you guys for doing the broadcast, and you guys have also encouraged me to join the league. Steven Stepien for encouraging me to join the league. It was a fun league. He puts on a great show every week. I've watched from time to time, and shows have been great. My brother and his friends were watching, and yeah, that's about it.
Well, Jaden, we appreciate the time. Congratulations on your first career dropping the Hammah Cup Series victory, and we'll see you on Wednesday next week, but or the other week after, but we'll see you next Sunday for the next race. Congratulations on the W.
Yeah, thank you, bud.
Jaden Porter leads 52 en route to his first career victory in his singular DTH Cup Series start. And on the other end of things, Francisco, a long tenure driver through this inaugural season, gets his best finish of 2025. We're joined by Warren Cowkeith from P2.
Well, Warren Cowkeith, it was your best overall performance all season long and your best finish of the season. Kind of walk us through what it was like from your perspective going through the race and those late stages battling for the top position.
Yeah, it was about time we got a good finish. Qualified well all season. It's about time we do something completely opposite of that and qualify okay and get a good finish. But started out the race pretty interesting. You know, we had that front end damage from that don't know. I think Ross spun the tires, trying to be aggressive on the start. I don't know. But definitely spun them up and got me and Schaefer some pretty good damage. Had about a minute of damage on the front end, so that first stage was grueling. I think I got the tires down to about 45% on the right front. So that first stage was pretty diabolical. But yeah, hell of a race for everybody. I mean, good racing all through the front of the field. It was good to have a good race at Dover where everybody's on top of each other, having a good, clean race. There wasn't any real beating and banging from the up front that I saw. I know my mirror, I definitely saw a bunch of it. But, it was a good race, and I'm glad that the 78 SKMcars.com Toyota was up front, and I think got pretty close to getting a win. I don't know if we had anything for the 91. I don't know what he was doing differently than we were, but definitely showed up tonight, first race, and he goes out in there and wins. So good on him, but it's kind of annoying, fight all season, and here becomes a new guy, and we're like, oh, well, that stinks.
that's always a feeling where you're like, yeah, okay, here's my chance, and then someone else shows up and gets the win. But still, a really good run from you, Warren. And as we are on this run towards the playoffs, what do you think you have to do in these final 4 or 5 races to really get yourself in a position to qualify for the postseason? As we do have a mixed bag of racetracks remaining.
I mean, this is a good stretch for me. It's a good stretch of tracks. We got Michigan coming up, a few other tracks, Indy, before we get to the playoffs, and then even in the playoffs, good stretch of track. So we'll just try to build some momentum. Maybe purposely try to do like Lawson Peel does and not qualify, so I don't get the Bueno curse of Warren Key starts up front again and then doesn't finish good. So I'm going to try to reverse that. But, we'll see what we can do. We're trying some different brake packages, testing for the playoffs. I know, and I'm not locked in, but I mean, points-wise, we're pretty close to being locked in here with a few races left. So we'll just start playing with some brakes. I know the master cylinders can be huge at some of these tracks coming up, so we'll just start playing with that and see how it goes. But I think we're doing a pretty good job.
Pretty good job indeed, Warren. And before we let you go, just give you the opportunity to give a shout out to everybody that helps make this happen for you and your number 7018 team.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you guys up here in the booth, especially Kenneth. You guys do a hell of a job. It's good to hear your voice again. It's good to be back in this league. Took a good hiatus running the Xfinity side for a little bit, but good to be back up here. I'd like to thank everybody at D Legacy every week. James and Richard, Casey, they're all good lads down there. And also, SKMcars.com. It's good to have a good paint scheme on here again. I know it's a Denny Hamlin style, but we're going to try to make it our own since it's not being run anymore. So we'll go in the next week, and I don't even know where we are. I think we're at Michigan, and Michigan's not going to be really of a plate race. It's going to be a lot more of a tire race than I think everyone realizes.
It is indeed Michigan International Speedway. We'll go for 150 laps there, so it's going to be a long night. But Warren, we appreciate the time you take with us here tonight, and we hope to see you out there next week.
Absolutely. Good night, everybody.
That's Warren Kyle Keith. Car number 78 gets his best finish of the season in position number 2. We'll turn back to third place where we find Drinkin' Bros Racing's Brandon Banks. And Brandon, a solid performance this evening. It didn't come without some fighting, of course. You rolled off 21st. You had to work your way through the field, but that final stage is where things broke through in the clouds, get the sunshine to peek through the middle by the time that got through. How would you describe that final stage and what you experienced behind the wheel up front?
Well, I mean, we had to start the deck. I really didn't get any practice at all. I got home really late, and I didn't want to be up there and make a bobble here and ruin someone's night early. So we started in the back and just kind of took our time getting through the pack there, and maybe gave up a little bit of stage points. I think we had a lot of speed, but just being really, really conservative on the tires, trying to figure out what the tires were going to do. And just kept trying to free it up a little bit more and more throughout the race. And we got out there at the end, and I don't know if maybe I felt fast out front. And I knew Jaden was going to be really good on the long run. So I didn't know exactly how hard to run up there. And I just kind of tried to set a pace that I felt comfortable with. And I figured maybe we could get lucky and maybe catch a caution halfway through that. I think we would have had something for him if we could have maybe got the whole field to come back in and went back out with maybe about a 25 lap run or something. Jaden was just the class of the field. Congrats to him. He did exactly what he's supposed to do. He's really hard to beat on the long run anywhere. With us racing him in 4 wide so much, we kind of know what we're up against. So But congrats to him. But I don't know. I don't know much more if I could have done. Honestly, maybe be able to put more practice in. That would have been probably the biggest thing. Just, you know, I just didn't get that opportunity today.
And we saw a lot of the different lanes used here at Dover, and stage 2 was probably the exemplary effort of trying something different over and over again to beat other drivers in traffic. As this race developed, it seemed like these cars got harder and harder to drive. So what did you find learning the best over the course of that long run to the end, and the use of different lanes and fighting for position specifically?
I don't know. I mean, it was really good to run in the very, if you could get up front, you could get a little bit of clean air, and it wasn't nearly as bad on the tires. But I don't know. My pace up front was just honestly faster, and just wasn't driving the same race that I was driving in the back. So, maybe you get in there a little bit earlier and getting qualified up front, so I could kind of get the pace down a little bit better than I did there at the end of the race. Maybe I could have conserved enough tire to stay with Jaden. But yeah, I mean, he ran a great race. Like I say, he deserves it. And we'll take our top 3 and move on to, I think it's Michigan. And we're usually pretty good in the next couple race tracks. So try to get some good finishes and maybe get ourselves set for the playoff.
In all but 2 races, you finished an event outside of the top 10. So the consistency is there, and as we get to these last regular season races, I think we're going to be talking about you a lot more when we get down to that playoff conversation as one of those locked in with the win at Chicagoland, and a guy that's always one to think about. Brandon, before we let you bounce here from the Monster Mile, anybody that you want to thank in particular for the run?
Well, definitely appreciate you guys for putting on an awesome broadcast like normal. Thanks to Progar and Stempian for putting this league on. It's a really fun league. We've got a really good group of guys in here that seem to be, the more and more we kind of keep going on through this season, it seems like we're all kind of getting used to racing around each other and putting on actually some really good shows for you guys. So hopefully that'll continue going into the playoffs. And like I said, appreciate the DBR guys for everything they do, obviously, every week. And congrats to Warren and Jaden for a great finish there.
Well, Brandon, as always, we appreciate the time. Congratulations on the podium. And as the KBueno Racing Network signs you off, congratulations on the finishing run. And we'll see you at Michigan next week. Should be a lot of fun.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.
Brandon Banks concludes our podium finishers tonight from the virtual Dover Motor Speedway. And from there, Francisco, it's a 2-mile oval. How about a 2.66 mile super speedway, then a 1 mile short track, and then we go back to larger tracks for the next couple weeks, Michigan and Pocono for races 10 and 11. I think the biggest storyline is this regular season slowly coming down to a close, but what are your wrap-up thoughts here from Dover as we end this one?
We'll see how much of an effect on the playoffs do the new BBR entries have, even if they can't make the playoffs themselves, that they certainly could affect who gets in and who gets out by taking away those race wins and points available. So that'll be something to watch in these next handful of races at Michigan, Pocono, National Gateway, and Daytona to end the regular season. But once again, we saw Lawson Peel have another good run, even though he fell down to 5th in the running order late. Warren Cowkeith with his best performance so far this season to really help his playoff opportunities in these last couple of weeks. And at every point, it's going to start mattering, especially in these stages. We know Steven Stempian is one to not have good results to a lot of these races in the past couple of weeks, but just due to how many stage points he has, he is one of the highest in points even without a win. So it goes to show just how important stage points are going to be. Getting stage wins for playoff points are going to be just as important. And with every race, there's just one less opportunity to qualify to be racing for a championship beginning at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. And I gotta get your question. I gotta get your thoughts here on this topic here, Kenneth. Tomorrow night is the championship game. Who do you got? Florida, Houston?
Oh, I mean, from what I've heard, Houston is just so physical of a defensive team. They're a physical team overall. But I'm gonna go with Florida. I'm just gonna go with the home state. Just gonna hope that if Florida gets through. I was hoping that Duke would get on the other side of the bracket, but they didn't. So just give me the Gators, I guess, all the way for the Natty. But wrap-up thoughts here from Dover. Absolute dominance from Jaden Porter, especially in that final stage. But this may be one of the best races we've seen here this season. Dover brought us the fireworks of the chaos and then the raw intensity that you can find at a track like this. We open things up in Michigan. Again, that is next week, April 13th. You'll find the coverage right here at around 8:10 p.m. Eastern live on the KBueno Racing Network YouTube channel. Again, that's April 13th around 8:10 p.m. Eastern live on KBRN. So that will do it for tonight's coverage from the Monster Mile and Dover Motor Speedway. A big thank you to everyone that makes this series possible. For Steven Stepien and Chris Progar on behalf of the Droppin the Hammah Racing League, and for all of us here at the KBueno Racing Network. For my broadcast partner in the booth, Francisco Bacalhau, I'm Kenneth Bueno saying so long from Dover, and congrats to Jaden Porter on his first ever DTH Cup Series win in his debut.